Magneto of Hyuga Chapter 1. The Magneto of the Hyuga family author, Sun 6000. White eyes plus electromagnetic force plus bow and arrow plus science. People are in Hyuga, start the awakening of electromagnetic force. What kind of changes will occur when the sun is paired with the electromagnetic force? Hyuga Satoru said, "What is soft boxing? Dogs don't learn. Aren't electromagnetic guns fragrant? What? Hyuga doesn't have a ranged attack. My bow and arrow are paired with electromagnetic force, within the range of white eyes, where to shoot, the magnetic storm is here. What? Can't Hyuga drive Gundam?" Hyuga Satoru snapped his fingers. Electromagnetic force, move. Completely in the middle of Susanoo's body, Madara Uchiha looked up at the metal Gundam hundreds of meters high in front of him, and fell into contemplation. An unknown Hyuga's slander, everyone is Hyuga, why are you so unscientific? Bow and arrows are upgraded to sniper rifles in the midterm, and space-based electromagnetic guns are upgraded in the later stage. Chapter 1 Start Awakening Electromagnetic Force. There was laughter in the classroom, and Hyuga Satoru panicked. He saw a man with a Mediterranean hairstyle asking the students to introduce themselves. As the students introduced themselves one by one, laughter and applause continued. Have you deleted your browser history? How did you travel to the Naruto world? Or the first class? Hyuga Satoru looked around the classroom and became even more panicked when he saw many familiar faces. The one who proudly mentioned my Hokage father in the self-introduction in the first row seems to be the bounty measurement unit of the underground black market in the future, and the head was exchanged for the bounty by a top financial fan. The white hair in the middle of the second row, with a black mask, is the future chakra unit of measurement, if he remembers correctly. The 2B boy with goggles behind him, because of his puppy love, killed his wife and slaughtered the whole clan, causing blood in the ninja world, and in the end, only the scum was left. The more Hyuga Satoru looked at, the more panicked. None of these awesome characters in the original work had a good ending. Wouldn't it be worse if he just crossed over? He turned his attention to the guy who was introducing himself. That man's teeth reflect like a flashlight. His dream is to carry out his youth to the end. He seems to be the only civilian who has changed his life against the sky. He almost kicked out the finale with one foot. Called. However, he will spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. As for the other classmates, few of them were familiar to Hai Xiangwu, they were all cannon fodder among cannon fodders, and leaks among leaks. A few years later, in the 3 wars, a lot of them would have been cut off, and few survived to the end. It would be fine if he was a clan, after all, he had a bunch of cannon fodder to protect him, so if he didn't die, he might still be able to get to the end. But according to the original body's memory, not only was he separated, his parents were also dead, and he was the most unpopular type in the Hyuga clan. It's over, Barbie buckles up. This wave is a nightmare start. Hyuga Satoru's eyes were ashen. If you say you want to cross, just cross into the Hokage where life is like a must, and the key timeline is still the one with the highest mortality rate before the Third World War. The Battle of Kanobi Bridge, the Battle of Kikiyama. Hyuga Satoru couldn't even imagine how he could survive. Just when Hyuga Satoru was helpless, a gentle voice pulled him back to reality. Hinata Satoru-san, it's your turn to introduce yourself. Hyuga Satoru raised his head, and saw the instructor Fujino Daikichi looking at him with a smile, and the other students in the class also focused their attention on him. Seeing this, Hyuga Satoru had to bite the bullet and stand up. My name is Hinata Satoru, I come from the Hinata clan, I like to eat ramen and grilled meat, my dream is. Hyuga Satoru hesitated for a while, and said after thinking about it. Live to the end. The class suddenly became quiet, looking at Hyuga Satoru with surprised and hesitant eyes. Live to the end? What is that? Fujino Daikichi smiled awkwardly and touched the top of his sparse head. It seems that Satoru Hyuga usually likes to read comics. The ending is only available in the comics. I hope that in a future study, Satoru Hyuga can't be so indulged in the comics. Yes. Hyuga Satoru responded perfunctorily and sat down, but he clearly remembered that few of the classmates in the class lived to the end. After the remaining passers-by finished introducing themselves, Fujino Daikichi cleared his throat and said, "Students, the self-introduction session for the start of school is over, and the first class is next. Please open the textbook, Inheriting the Will of Fire." Hyuga Satoru flipped through the red textbook on the table, and the whole article was full of beautiful remarks about the will of fire, which was completely nutritious. On the podium, Tayoshi Fujino expounded on the will to catch fire, and most of the students below listened with relish. However, Hyuga Satoru was restless. He turned a few pages and read it carefully for a long time, only to see two words full of words: pyramid selling. Did I fall into a pyramid scheme brainwashing center? This is all the political propaganda of Konoha village. What about guidelines? What about the program of thought? What about detailed standards and scales? The whole article is to promote that everyone is a family, to protect the children, to protect the village, to sacrifice everything for the village, and to dedicate yourself. The point is, I'm only 6 years old, so let me sacrifice myself on the battlefield. When he watched anime in his previous life, Xiangwu hadn't realized it yet, but when he really crossed into it and became an insider, he realized the absurdity in it. After experiencing the initial panic, Hyuga Satoru gradually calmed down. After all, what is in his body is the soul of an adult, and his experience and thinking are not comparable to those of a few-year-old child. In the classroom, Fujino Daikichi's voice reciting the will of fire was still loud, but Hyuga Satoru had already turned his eyes out of the window, thinking crazy about the plans behind him. Today is his first day at the ninja school and the beginning of his journey as a ninja. Must start a meticulous training program. For his dream of living to the end, or rather, the goal. Click. Hyuga Satoru pushed open the creaking wooden door, and what he saw was an old courtyard. This was the house his parents left for him. Although the space was not very large, it had all the internal organs. The one-day ninja school course was full of non-nutritious things like the will of fire explanation, and there was no actual combat class or ninjutsu class that Hyuga Satoru expected. But after a day, he also completely absorbed the memory of the original body. He has no memory of his mother. It seems that he died in childbirth when he was born. His father was the guardian of the sect, an elite chunin, who died in a mission to protect the sect. Thanks to this, he was able to inherit his father as the youngest son. House and get the qualification to go to ninja school. As a branch family, he also has a caged bird on his forehead, and his future trajectory, probably like his father, became the guardian of the clan, and sacrificed to protect the glorious clan of the clan. Headache. Hyuga Wu rubbed his forehead. Not all the fathers of the branch family were the head of the branch family. There was an uncle of the head of the clan family. A certain guy who is clamoring to break his destiny, eats and drinks without worry, enjoys the top treatment in the Hyuga clan, and more branches are like him, struggling on the line of food and clothing. With a sigh, Hyuga Satoru cleared away the distracting thoughts in his head. Now is not the time to think about those things. After a day of class, his hungry stomach growled long ago. After looking through the remaining ingredients in the kitchen, he was going to think about the cultivation plan after dinner. Life is already very sad, and I can't let my stomach be sad again. He was about to pick up the iron pot to clean it when something unexpected happened. The moment his palm approached the iron pot, the body of the pot suddenly trembled uncontrollably. At the same time, all the metal products in the kitchen were constantly vibrating, as if playing a metal rhythm. Hyuga Satoru stood blankly in the middle, as if something exploded in his mind, converging into a blue-purple star vortex, with a line of small characters below. Electromagnetic Force, LV1. Distance Upgrade, 2000 Experience Points. Chapter 2 Magneto. Electromagnetic Force. Hyuga Satoru was stunned for a long time, and it took a while to recover. Am I awakened to electromagnetism? The electromagnetic force, one of the 4 fundamental forces. At the same time, Hyuga Satoru noticed that some changes had taken place in his body, and an indescribable feeling of comfort surged from every cell, and the whole person was refreshed. He suddenly thought that the redox life activities of the human body are constantly generating weak biological currents. Every cell is a miniature biological battery. In short, everyone has his unique magnetic field. Magnetic field. Is this feeling of revitalization of his own due to the awakening of the electromagnetic force, which greatly increases his biological magnetic field, and then feeds it back to the body? Hyuga Satoru remembered that in his previous life, many profiteers would falsely claim that the insole underwear they sold contained Tianshan magnets, which could increase the biomagnetism of the human body and have the miraculous effect of prolonging life and treating cancer. That is a proper IQ tax, but in my current situation, it seems that the biological magnetic field has been amplified. Is it true that I can manipulate the electromagnetic force? Hyuga Satoru swallowed his saliva, and held the kitchen knife on the chopping board in the air. When he thought about it, the kitchen knife staggered toward him. Although the trajectory was like a drunk driving, Hyuga Satoru kept ecstatic in his heart. Electromagnetic force. It's really electromagnetism. You must know that this is one of the 4 basic forces. Magneto is so bad, he brings his own Jinshan bridge when he goes out, but it is only a preliminary development of electromagnetic force, and at best it can only be regarded as wantiwang. The continuous acceleration of the magnet by the electromagnetic field makes it have a very high initial speed, which is the electromagnetic gun. Miss Cannon, do you know? A ruthless man who pierced a cruise ship with a coin. Using electromagnetic force to distort photons and create super-large-scale holographic projections, the illusion is weak. Electromagnetic force interferes with the electrical signals of the brain, and directly manipulates the visual, auditory, tactile, and even thinking of the other party. This is the real puppet technique. If the electromagnetic force manipulated is strong enough, you can even drag the planet with your bare hands. Mars hits the Earth, and the star is weak, so Madara is an expert. The above is the macroscopic level. Looking at the microscopic, electromagnetic force is used to manipulate the nucleus, so that the electrons outside the nucleus can be freed from the nuclei, so that the nuclei attract and collide with each other, and a polymerization reaction occurs. Simply put, it is a nuclear bomb by hand. Using quantum field theory to generate positive and negative particle pairs, inverting the electromagnetic action to obtain antimatter, an annihilation reaction, it is possible to obliterate an existence in a fundamental sense. Think bigger, are you? Do not. You are just a collection of tiny atoms, and everything you do is the result of the constant motion of those atoms. Your past, your present and future. Using electromagnetic force to manipulate the movement of atoms, all changes are under control. Looking at the universe, omniscient and omnipotent, you are God, and God is you. Simply put, as long as you have a strong enough grasp of the electromagnetic force, there is almost nothing you can't do. Hyuga Satoru took a deep breath, suppressing the shock and surprise in his heart. Fortunately, I was a science student before I crossed, otherwise I don't know how to use Baoshan if I have it. Life is really impermanent, the large intestine wraps the small intestine. In the morning, he was still worried about living to the finale, and now he has acquired a terrifying ability that can be called a bug. After calming down, Hyuga Satoru began to test his ability to control the electromagnetic force. There are many metal objects in the kitchen, and there are enough materials for Hyuga Satoru to experiment. After some tests, he probably figured out his level of ability. Under the electromagnetic force ability of LV1 level, his control of electromagnetic force is limited to the manipulation of some easily magnetized metals, and the ability to initially use magnetic fields, including but not limited to magnetization and accelerate. To put it simply, his current ability is similar to an enhanced magnetic escape. In addition, the continuous use of electromagnetic force will increase the experience value. He has just done an experiment and increased the experience value by 2 points. It seems that there is still a long way to upgrade to the 2000 points of LV2. Hyuga Satoru smashed his mouth, but he didn't feel disappointed. Most of the ninja's items were metals that were easily magnetized. With his current ability, he might be able to take the life of the ninja unexpectedly. Dare you think about it? Eating hot pot and singing songs, all of a sudden the head is gone. This is not comparable to ordinary magnetic tunnels. Ordinary magnetic tunnels can only control the corresponding metals, such as the sand iron of the 3rd generation of Fengying, and the gold of the 4th generation. With the gradual improvement of Hai Xiangwu's control of electromagnetic force, everything is magnetizable, those higher-order abilities can be used. After the test, Hyuga Satoru felt that he had become weak, and the weak chakra in his body had dried up a lot. After all, the Hyuga family is a famous family of Konoha, and the chakra refining technique is widely spread. His father also left the relevant chakra refining codes, so he practiced chakra refining before he entered school. Magneto of Hyuga Chapter 2. The consumption of electromagnetic force can be mental power, more, or chakra. After all, chakra is the combination of mental power and physical power. Hyuga Satoru snorted. The chakra he had just consumed in his body was recovering quickly, and the momentum was even stronger than before. He quickly thought that his biological magnetic field was much more vigorous due to the increase of electromagnetic force, and the spiritual and physical strength required for chakra refining had a certain relationship with the biological magnetic field. Under this increase, the amount of chakra naturally rises. Immediately afterwards, Hyuga Satoru thought about maximizing his ability to develop himself. He still has a lot of experience in LV2 electromagnetic force, and there is no hope of upgrading in the short term. He can combine his own hardware conditions to maximize the electromagnetic force. This is his goal at this stage. Bai Yen, can the bloodstained boundary of the Hyuga family be matched with electromagnetic force? If it is an advanced electromagnetic force, Bai Yen is naturally too tasteless, but at the current level of electromagnetic force, Bai Yen seems to have many magical uses. His perspective ability is about 1 kilometer, and it will continue to increase with practice. This also means that within 1 kilometer, all enemies cannot escape his electromagnetic cannon, a proper map cannon. In addition, it seems that the soft fist can also be combined with the electromagnetic force. The conventional soft fist strikes the meridians and blocks the flow of the opponent's chakra. There is also Bagua Kongjang. Others use air cannons, but I use electromagnetic cannons. There's something going on. Hyuga Satoru rubbed his chin, and the smile in his eyes deepened. Goo. At this moment, his stomach growled unsatisfactorily, and Hyuga Satoru looked out the window, only to realize later that it was completely dark outside. Awakening electromagnetic force plus experiment, I don't know how much time passed, his stomach completely stopped. Exactly, consider cooking this time as part of your practice. Hyuga Satoru smiled and rolled up his sleeves, turned on the faucet to wash the vegetables, the kitchen knife on the chopping board vibrated a few times, and flew up staggeringly to automatically cut the vegetables he washed. The night outside was already deep, and in the silence, his small figure and the kitchen knife flying out of thin air were reflected in the kitchen window. Chapter 3 Uchiha's Shame and the Scroll King. Early in the morning, Hyuga Satoru, who had tossed all night, struggled to get up and came to the ninja school. He was so excited by the awakening of the electromagnetic force last night that he hardly slept much, his white eyes turned into panda eyes, and his white pupils looked like a layer cake under the attack of dark circles. Hey! Woo, why are you so lacking in energy today? The red bee next to him looked at him curiously, holding a glutinous rice ball in his hand and eating with relish. Fine. Hongdo thought about it for a while, then suddenly put her face towards Hai Xiangwu, and said in a low voice, Wu, what did you mean by living to the end yesterday? Hyuga Satoru thought for a while and said, it's a very powerful thing. Oh. Seeing that Hai Xiangwu didn't mean to answer, Hongdo pouted and stopped asking. Looking at the colorful and red bean's hand, Hyuga Satoru's mind came to the appearance of red bean turning into sweet potato decades later, and he felt a sudden physical discomfort. Although the red beans are not very beautiful now, they are also very beautiful. How can they become an old ant in the future? By the way, to remind you one thing, eat less meatballs. Why? Hongdo took a bite of the ball and glanced at Sun Xiangwu, will you live without the finale? Hyuga Satoru thought for a while and said, it's better not to live in the finale. Red beans? Just when Hongdo wanted to say something, someone in the class coaxed, here comes the head teacher. The chaotic class fell silent in an instant, and everyone sat up straight. Fujino Daikichi walked to the podium with the textbook and announced with a smile, students, this morning's class is mainly theoretical, and the afternoon is a practical class of shuriken throwing. I hope the students can study hard. Shuriken throwing class. Hyuga Satoru frowned, just in time to test the electromagnetic force's ability to control the shuriken. He had been training with kitchen utensils for a long time last night. Classmates, now turn the textbook Inheriting the Will of Fire to the 3rd chapter of the 1st chapter, and we will continue yesterday's lesson. It is good. Hyuga Satoru began to feel sleepy when he saw the analysis of the will of getting angry in the textbook. He simply covered his head with the textbook and fell asleep on the table. Fujino Daikichi's eyelids jumped when he saw this scene, but then he seemed to think of something and shook his head slightly. As a branch of the Hyuga clan, it will be miserable if you don't work hard. He looked at another part of the class. A boy with a bandage on his forehead and white pupils was looking at the textbook with a serious face. Fujino Daikichi smiled and said, compared to him, Iroha-san is much easier to learn. After I don't know how long, Hyuga Satoru stretched his waist long, and his whole body was refreshed. Now he not only did not feel weak as he just woke up, but instead felt full of strength. Hyuga Satoru thought about it. It should be that the electromagnetic force adjusted his biological magnetic field during the rest, so that his state could recover faster. Right now, he can't actively control his biomagnetic field, but when he cultivates electromagnetic power to a higher level, he may be able to actively control the biomagnetic field, making his vitality become extremely strong, and has the same injury as the original Hokage. Fast healing physique. In the afternoon, Daikichi Fujino took the students to the playground and started training related to shuriken throwing, including wrist strength, throwing skills, and so on. Hyuga Satoru found that most of the family's children were absent-minded, while those from civilian backgrounds listened with relish. The reason is that the descendants of the family have basically undergone the training of their elders before they enter school, but it is difficult for the children of the commoners to have access to this kind of knowledge, and they are not on the same starting line from the beginning. No matter what era, civilians are leaks. Hyuga Satoru sighed. Although it is just the beginning of school, some students already have a good amount of chakra, and their biomagnetic field is much stronger. Compared with the common students, they are simply fireflies. The most vigorous one, Hyuga Satoru, looked at the white hair at the front, frowning slightly. Hatake Kakashi, the biological magnetic field is so strong, it is estimated that he will have the chakra of Genin. He is indeed a genius of Shainin at the age of 12. Okay, the explanation is over. Fujino Daikichi clapped his hands. Next is throwing training. I will record your scores. Junmiko, you are the first. Yes. The black-haired girl responded timidly and walked from the crowd to Daikichi Fujino. A wooden target was placed about 10 meters in front of her, and next to it was a bamboo basket full of shuriken. Junmiko picked up a shuriken, recalled what Fujino Daikichi had just explained, and threw it at Murakami sharply. Snapped. The shuriken stabbed in the outer circle. 6 points, not bad. Junmiko threw a few more. 5 points, 6 points, 7 points. Fujino Daikichi nodded. Okay, next. Hyuga Satoru observed the throwing of the shuriken. His fingers moved slightly, and the shuriken in the edge of the bamboo basket trembled a few times. The mass of a shuriken is very light. According to Newton's second law, acceleration is inversely proportional to mass. It should be much easier for me to handle than a kitchen knife. At this moment, there was a sudden exclamation from the crowd. My God, how did you do it? Hyuga Satoru looked at him and saw that Kakashi was holding a few shuriken in each hand, throwing them with both hands, without a single pause. The movements were smooth, and all fell into the bullseye. So amazing. God, a genius? Fujino Daikichi smiled and nodded. The basic skills are very solid, and the single-round shuriken throwing skills are no weaker than the General Jin-nin, worthy of being the son of Lord White Fang. Hatake Kakashi, full marks, next. I come. As soon as Fujino Teyoshi's voice fell, a black long-haired girl suddenly appeared in the crowd and fell into the position where Kakashi threw it just now. As expected of the Uchiha family, Uchiha Rin, full marks. Fujino Daikichi said with satisfaction. Do you want to roll like this? Hyuga Satoru's eyelids jumped. In his eyes, Uchiha Rin had already become the Scroll King. In his previous life, he had had enough of those scroll kings, but he did not expect to cross into Hokage and meet another scroll king. Uchiha glanced coldly at Kakashi, walked to his place. Next to him, Obito shouted excitedly. "Hey, Kakashi, did you see that? This is the strength of our Uchiha clan. Just wait, I will definitely defeat you." Kakashi ignored him completely. Hyuga Satoru looked at Obito speechlessly, and the others looked at him dancing like a fool. Who would have thought that such a guy would actually be the big boss in the future? Next, Uchiha Obito. "It's my turn." Obito walked forward excitedly. "I'll let you guys take a good look at my strength. I've been secretly training Shuriken for a long time." Obviously, Uchiha Rin's performance gave him great confidence. He picked up a shuriken and threw it violently, which shocked everyone. The shuriken actually rubbed the target and flew out. Off target, 0 points. Fujino Daikichi said weakly. "I don't believe it, it's an accident, it must be an accident." Uchiha threw out another shuriken in desperation, but missed the target again. 0 points. Fujino Daikichi was speechless. Kakashi glanced at Obito, then took his eyes away from him. Uchiha Rin reluctantly glanced over at his face, and embarrassedly almost buckled his toes out of the 3 rooms and 1 hall. That expression seemed to say, don't look at me, I'm not from the same family. Mistake. A mistake. It's definitely a mistake. That's not my level. Obito threw out another shuriken. 0 marks. Throw again, 0 marks. Ha ha ha. There was thunderous laughter all around. Obito blushed, the whole figure was like a full of gas pepper, and his teeth creaked. "I don't believe in this evil." He suddenly threw the last shuriken in his hand. Snapped. The shuriken was firmly inserted in the position of the red heart. The air suddenly quieted down. Obito was stunned for a while, then burst out laughing. "I just said it was a mistake, this is my real strength, do you see it?" He turned his head and saw that everyone was looking at him like a fool. Uchiha Rinsheng covered his face with his palm reluctantly. What she was thinking at this time was, for the reputation of the Uchiha family, should we put it away in advance? This guy does it. "You, what are you doing?" "I clearly hit the bullseye." Obito said hesitantly. Fujino Daikichi said weakly, "Obito, take a look again." Obito turned his head, his eyelids twitched and his mouth opened instantly, as if he could swallow an orange. How is this possible? I saw that what he hit was not the target for the test at all, but the target thrown by the other group of students several meters away. In the corner of Hyuga Satoru's mouth rose slightly without leaving a trace. Chapter 4 White Eyes plus Electromagnetic Force plus Bow and Arrow equals Magnetic Storm. Playground. Magneto of Hyuga Chapter 3. Hyuga Satoru glanced at the unlovable Obito, thinking in his heart, "Obito, you can't blame me. As long as you do anything stupid, you will not be surprised, and you are the best test subject. Besides, I am stimulating your motivation to study, so that you don't indulge in puppy love, it is for your own good." Through the interference test of the shuriken with soil, he found that he has a certain ability to control even the shuriken flying at high speed. In the future, such things as ninjas will basically be no threat to him. Looking at the dancing Obito, Fujino Daikichi sighed, scratched the hair on the top of his head, and suddenly had a headache. Why did Uchiha do such a strange thing? Forget it. Next, Iroha Hinata. In the crowd, a boy with a bandage on his forehead and pure white eyes came out and threw a shuriken with both hands. 10 points, 9 points, 10 points. It's amazing, only a little worse than Kakashi and the others. After all, it's the Hyuga clan. Why is he wearing a bandage on his forehead? Someone asked in a low voice. Shoo. You don't know. That's from the Hinata clan. Hearing this, Iroha Hyuga's face turned cold, he clenched his fists subconsciously, and walked back to his position. Fujino Daikichi nodded with satisfaction. Through the observation of the past few days, he found that although Iroha Hyuga is not the best in talent, he must be the one who works the hardest. For the Hyuga branch, hard work is their only way out. Next, Hyuga Satoru. Hyuga Satoru stepped forward, picked up a few shuriken, and weighed them a few times in his hands. 7 points, 7 points, 7 points, 10 points. After several consecutive 7 points, the last one hit 10 points. The crowd murmured. Although they are both from the Hyuga family, they seem to be a lot worse than Iroha. The gap with Kakashi and the others is even greater. Yeah, after all, not everyone is a genius. Hyuga Satoru's face was flat, as if he hadn't heard their discussion. Hyuga Iroha looked back at Hyuga Satoru. Although he was also from Hyuga's family, he didn't usually have much contact with him. This level was not worthy of his attention. On the other hand, Uchiha Rin looked at the target that Hyuga Satoru threw, and her eyes suddenly lit up. She found that the position of the shuriken on the target formed a 6-pointed array with the one in the middle. Coincidence? Interesting. Soon after Hyuga Satoru returned home, someone knocked on the door, and the door was opened by the guards of the branch. The other party wore a ninja forehead guard on his forehead, and handed him a slightly raised envelope. Hyuga Satoru, this is the living allowance given to you by the family this month. Hyuga Satoru took the envelope with his name and amount written on it. Okay, thanks. The guard nodded and disappeared. This branch guard was specially here to provide living expenses. Hyuga Satoru would only see him once a month, and there was very little additional communication. Hyuga Satoru opened the envelope and found 15 thin banknotes, 1,500 taels. He had a headache. In this world where a bowl of ramen costs 60 taels, 1,500 taels are indeed a bit restrained to last a month. As one of Konoha's most famous families, compared to Uchiha, Hyuga's respect for clan and system has reached the extreme, lawful, even too lawful. Each clan is like a part on a huge machine, silently walking on its own route. After crossing these days, Xianwu has already felt the warmth of human affection. As an orphan, he lives alone in a corner of the clan. But that's fine. If it's another branch, his actions are basically under the control of the sect. Now, he has a little freedom. Regarding the caged bird, Hyuga Satoru is not particularly afraid. The electromagnetic force has grown to a sufficient level, and it is almost omnipotent. It is not easy to solve a curse mark. The same can be done for caged birds. The key is to have enough strength. After dinner, Hyuga Satoru quietly slipped out of the clan and came to the forest in the back mountain. He wanted to fully test his abilities. If he was in the clan, he might be discovered by the clan. Hyuga Satoru threw the shuriken with all his strength. Under the blessing of the electromagnetic force, the shuriken lingered with light blue lightning, and disappeared with a swoosh. From the white-eyed perspective, he clearly saw that the shuriken hit a tree pole 100 meters away. Hyuga Satoru raised his eyebrows. The ultimate killing range of a regular ninja shuriken is about 40 meters. It is difficult for even the upper ninja to break this limit. Don't underestimate this distance, it is already 10 stories high. Ninjutsu's killing range is generally lower. The most famous is the fireball technique. It looks violent, but the strike range is only a few meters in front of it. Generally, it can only be used as an atmosphere group between battles, and it is easy to be avoided. Ninjas have limits. Unless it's like Madara's one-handed Gundam and the existence of a hand-rubbed meteor, the attack range of a conventional ninja is just that little bit. But electromagnetism can let him break this limit. Bayan's ultra-high perspective ability and electromagnetic force's ultra-long attack range give him a very strong sniper ability. Just imagine, you were eating hot pot and singing songs, and suddenly you were shot in the head, and you didn't even see the shadow of the enemy. Who is to make sense of this? Hyuga Satoru thought about it. The range of his white eyes was about 1 kilometer, and within a 1 kilometer radius, except for the one-time blind spot behind his forehead, no living thing could escape his insight, but even if the shuriken was blessed by electromagnetic force, the effective strike range is still only about 100 meters, the difference is too much. If an electromagnetic gun can be developed, this is naturally not a problem, but with the electromagnetic force of LV1, it is not possible at present. So are there any ninja tools? Can I maximize my attack range? After thinking about it, Hyuga Satoru's eyes suddenly lit up. Bow. In this age without guns, the bow is the most long-range killing weapon. He remembered a question he saw on Jihu in his previous life. If you transmigrated to become a Hinata ninja, how to maximize the advantage of white eyes? One of the high praise answers was to use a bow. When Rixiang became the sixth child, the ability of Bai Yan can be maximized. However, it is difficult for conventional bows and arrows to have a range of hundreds of meters, but I am different. I still have electromagnetism. The more Hyuga Satoru thought about it, the brighter his eyes became. Due to its structure, bows and arrows have a longer range than shuriken. With the blessing of electromagnetic force, it is not impossible to reach 1 kilometer. This is a good sniper rifle. Or the kind that comes with a see-through hanging. Sir, times have changed. Moreover, the scope of his white eye perspective will continue to increase with practice, and some strong clans in the family can even reach a range of 5 kilometers. Hyuga Satoru took a deep breath and suppressed the surprise in his heart. Now that the long-range attack method is available, the short-range attack method should also be developed. As the most famous attack method of Hyuga Satoru said that dogs don't even learn it. He came to a big tree with thick arms, put on a soft fist stance, used electromagnetic force to change the magnetic field of his palm, and then hit it with one palm. He only heard a muffled sound, and the moment his palm came into contact with the tree stem, a light blue light film burst out along the palm, and the thick bark of the thick tree in his arms burst open, and sawdust splashed. Hyuga Satoru shook his palm, very satisfied with the power. Before attacking, he changed the magnetic field of the palm and the tree pole. At the moment of contact, the high-voltage current burst out with repulsive force. If Patriarch Hyuga was here, his eyelids would have jumped, exclaiming, "Is this the soft fist?" This move is called magnetic slap. The power is not bad. If chakra is enough, I can beat each of the 64 soft fists into magnetic slams. It's just. Hyuga Satoru frowned slightly, looking at the slightly trembling palm. The effect of force is mutual. This move requires a lot of physical strength. With my current physical quality, I'm afraid I can't even finish the 18 palms of the magnetic storm, let alone 64 palms. Hyuga Satoru pondered, you must improve your physical strength. The prisoner's fitness routine that he saw in the previous life should be able to be used. He was a social animal in his previous life and had no time to exercise, so he bought a whole set of books on prisoner fitness, and he still had a lot of theoretical knowledge in reserve. After thinking about the direction, Hyuga Satoru stretched and felt extremely relaxed. That's the decision. Find a way to get a metal bow and improve your physical strength. Chapter 5, Rich Lady Wang. This guy, Hyuga Satoru, is getting more and more excessive. In class, Fujino Daikichi looked at Hyuga Satoru who was sleeping on the seat and had a headache. After teaching for so many years, he has never met such a lazy student of Hyuga. During this time, his impression of Satoru Hyuga can basically be described in one sentence. Go to bed and get out of class and pee after class. Are you mistaken? You are a ninja of the famous Hinata. Uchiha Rin, who is also a famous family, is the best in every subject, and competes with Kakashi for the first place. There is also Hyuga Iroha, although the talent is slightly inferior to them, but the extraordinary efforts can be regarded as a genius. Only you. Fujino Teyoshi subconsciously wanted to scratch his head, but he regretted the few hair he had left. The Mediterranean Sea above his head had spread again recently, so he had to sigh. Hey, put some wolfberry in the thermos cup next time in class. If Hyuga Satoru knew what Fujino Daikichi was thinking, he would definitely be wronged. Although I sleep in class every day, I work hard after school. Every day is a boring political and theoretical class. You don't teach ninjutsu. I can learn everything about the three-body art by myself. Why don't I sleep in class? What's more, I need to get experience points to upgrade my electromagnetic force. How can I get experience if I don't practice? Can't cause Blade Storm in the classroom. Comfortable. Hyuga Satoru stretched for a long time, wiped the drool from the corner of his mouth, and when he turned his head, he saw Red Bean eating and looked at him with admiration. Huh? Is get out of class over? Woo, you are so brave. Hondo said admiringly, just now before get out of class, Mr. Fujino stared at you for a long time. No wonder, I suddenly felt gloomy behind my back when I was sleeping. Hyuga Satoru looked surprised. At this moment, Hyuga Satoru suddenly noticed an unkind look, turned his head, and saw Hyuga Iroha looking at him coldly from the seat in front. Hyuga Satoru shrugged. Although both are from the Hyuga family, his relationship with Iroha is not that good. During this time, Hyuga Iroha found him more than once, accused him of losing the face of the famous Hyuga family, and even challenged him righteously, proving that the Hyuga branch was not the guy who was messing around in the mouths of other classmates. Of course, Hyuga Satoru would not agree, because he was afraid that he would be shot dead with one palm. He observed that Hyuga Iroha's chakra volume has risen very quickly recently, even approaching the level of genin, but the point is, this is simply not enough for him. He has not been idle for the past 2 months. The experience value of the electromagnetic force has accumulated from 2 to more than 600. Although it has not been upgraded to LV2, the control of the electromagnetic force has been proficient a lot, and the physical fitness has become much stronger under the continuous exercise, and can complete the 18 magnetic palms. The soft fist met the magnetic fist, and he beat him properly. He was really afraid that Iroha would not be able to get up if he missed. During this period of time, Hyuga Satoru's physical fitness training has reached an almost harsh level, because he found that the enhancement of physical fitness will enhance his biomagnetic field, and the improvement of the biological magnetic field will reversely increase his control over the electromagnetic force. Spend. So every night when he goes back, he will implement a strict fitness program, and use up the prisoner's fitness program he had seen in his previous life. However, he also gradually discovered that this kind of backfeeding has an upper limit, as if there is an invisible door that hinders his deeper exploration of electromagnetic force. Hyuga Satoru guessed that this should be the effect of the level. The electromagnetic force of LV1 level has only so much power corresponding to it, and it is impossible to increase it indefinitely. The level corresponds to the power of electromagnetic force opening. The higher the level, the higher the power. Those abilities like rubbing a nuclear bomb and pulling a planet with bare hands are basically at a high level, and there is still a long way to go. Hyuga Satoru exhaled, and his eyes flickered. During this time, he accumulated some savings, and with the previous ones, he should be able to buy a better bow and arrow. He has always been obsessed with bows and arrows, but he didn't buy them because he was shy. Now it's time to go to the ninja shop. After school, Hyuga Satoru started looking for a ninja shop in the village. Magneto of Hyuga Chapter 4. In fact, the Hyuga clan is a clan with rigid rules and regulations. Iroha, a member of the same clan, will not stay after school every time and go directly to the family's training ground. However, Hyuga Satoru is in a special situation and is basically in a state of stalking, which is why he is so free. Reason. Hyuga Satoru searched the village for a long time, and found a lot of ninja shops, but either the price was too expensive, or none of them met his requirements. After some searching, Hyuga Satoru came to a new ninja tool shop. The decoration of this store is relatively simple, but there are various types of ninja tools, which made Hyuga Satoru dazzled. "Hello, what kind of ninja gear do you need?" The female ninja in charge of receiving him smiled. "Bows and arrows need metal, and both bows and arrows are metal." The female ninja blinked and wondered, "Are you saying that the bow's body is metal?" "It's not just the bow body." Hyuga Satoru shook his head, "The bowstring should also be made of metal." "Bowstring?" The female ninja was stunned, and couldn't help but tentatively asked, "Do you know that bowstrings need strong toughness?" The materials for making bowstrings are generally spider silk and other thin threads with high toughness, and it is impossible to use metal. Hyuga Satoru nodded. "I know, but what I need is a bow with a metal bow. The body cannot be all metal, but the string must be all metal." Nonsense, of course he knows the material of conventional bowstrings, but the key point is that if he wants to use electromagnetic force to amplify the bow and arrow, then the material of the bowstring must be metal to maximize the effect of the magnetic field. The female ninja's face was a little unhappy. Hyuga Satoru seemed to be only 6 or 7 years old, and there was almost no possibility of buying ninja gear. If she hadn't seen the other party's eyes and knew the identity of the other party's Hyuga family, she might not have received them. The current requirement is that metal bowstrings are still required. Isn't this a mess? Hyuga Satoru had some headaches, which is why he specially saved some money to buy a bow. According to his request, he could not buy it, or he could not afford it. Now it seems that his bows and arrows are very difficult to buy. Just when he gave up hope and was about to leave, a familiar voice came, which made him stunned for a moment. Hyuga Satoru. Why are you here? Hyuga Satoru turned his head and saw Uchiha Rin walking in, looking at him curiously. I'm here to buy something. Hyuga Satoru said subconsciously. What does he want to buy? Uchiha Rin looked at the female ninja. The female ninja bowed slightly to Rin Uchiha, and after seeing Hyuga go, she said with some dissatisfaction, Miss, he wants to buy bows and arrows with metal bowstrings, how is this possible? Miss? Hyuga Satoru was stunned. Looking at Hyuga Satoru's expression, Uchiha raised his eyebrows and said in a flat tone, forgot to tell you, my parents have some small business, this store is my asset, by the way, turn left when you go out, this street is my home. Hearing Uchiha Rin's flat tone, Hyuga Satoru's mouth twitched slightly. Do you have any misconceptions about small businesses? For Uchiha Rin, his impression has always been the volume king who competes with Kakashi, but he did not expect to be a hidden rich woman. People are more mad than people. He suddenly thought that the Uchiha family had a good relationship with the ninja family, and the clansmen also contracted with the ninja family, and the cat mother-in-law of the ninja family was one of the largest arms dealers in the ninja world. To say who in Konoha is the most tolerant gu, that must be the Uchiha clan. Why do you buy bows and arrows with metal bowstrings? Uchiha Rin asked. I want to practice a certain ninjutsu, and I need this special ninja tool. Hyuga Satoru said, he will definitely use the bow and arrow after buying it, and there is no need to hide it. Special ninjutsu? The corners of Uchiha Rin's mouth twitched slightly, and his eyes flashed, sure enough, you are not as simple as you see it on the surface. Why do you say that? In the previous shuriken throwing test, although your score was not high, it formed a very strange pattern. Don't tell me it's just a coincidence. Hyuga Satoru looked at the girl in front of him, with a slender figure, waist-length black straight long hair, a flat chest, and the arrogance that Uchiha had on his face. Uchiha Rin raised his head slightly like a victory, turned back to the female ninja and said, does this shop have the bow he wants? The female ninja was stunned for a moment and said, there is something similar, but the price is very expensive, and it is not something he can. Take it out. Uchiha Rin said flatly. The female ninja had to bite the bullet and took out a wooden box and opened it. The bowstring reflected the luster of the metal, and next to it lay a few bows and arrows with metal arrows. This bow and arrow string is made of special metal. In addition, bow and arrow ninja tools are very rare and expensive, so she didn't tell Hyuga Satoru. It seems that he can't afford it. Although Hyuga is also a wealthy family, Hyuga Satoru's clothes are obviously not the rich type. Uchiha Rin handed the wooden box to Hyuga Satoru. Give it to you. Hyuga Satoru was stunned, give it to me. Why? I need pressure from my opponent to make me stronger. Since you are not as simple as it seems, investing in you to become my opponent is naturally in line with my goal. Besides, a bow and arrow is nothing. Looking at Uchiha Rin's light-hearted look, Hyuga Satoru suddenly got goosebumps. This wave is the king of rich women and scrolls. Chapter 6 Electromagnetic Guns. Back Mountain Forest. Hyuga Satoru was playing with the bow and arrow in his hand, and the bow body was as big as half of his body. Fortunately, he had not been wasting exercise, and he did not find it difficult to play. The material of the bow body is a kind of wood that he cannot name. It is very tough, and the bowstring reflects a slight metallic luster, giving it a chill. Hyuga Satoru tugged a few times with his fingers. Solid. What is prostitutes is incense. Hyuga Satoru is quite satisfied with the quality of the bows. Anyway, it's a free prostitute. What kind of bicycle do you want? No matter what Rin Uchiha's idea was, don't give anything away for nothing. He probably estimated that with the quality of this bow, his current savings might not be enough. With his current level of electromagnetic force, it is too difficult to develop a real electromagnetic gun. Otherwise, use iron pipe and steel ball cost sniper rifle, isn't it fragrant? The reason for choosing bows and arrows is to superimpose the kinetic energy of the arrows themselves to achieve maximum lethality. All for hurt. Hyuga Satoru picked up a bow and arrow and put it on the bowstring. If he wanted to use the bow and arrow to complete the electromagnetic gun, he must first construct an accelerating magnetic field. The principle of the electromagnetic gun can be said to be very simple. The metal cannonball is electromagnetically accelerated in the magnetic field to obtain a very high initial velocity. The key is to speed up this process, which is known as electromagnetic push. Hyuga Satoru remembers that in his previous life, Eagle Sauce and Rabbit engaged in an arms race. Among them, there were electromagnetic guns, and the main technical difficulty was also in the electromagnetic driving process. If you want to accelerate the shell to the ideal power, the current that needs to be consumed is very large, and the Eagle is limited by this, and it has been slow to apply the electromagnetic gun to the aircraft carrier. On the other hand, Rabbit has broken through the technical difficulties and far surpassed Eagle Sauce in the application of electromagnetic guns. However, for Hyuga Satoru, he can bypass the step of converting the magnetic field by electromagnetic induction and directly arrange the pushing magnetic field on the bowstring. That's why he has to ask for metal bowstrings. For other materials, he doesn't have the ability to change its magnetic field yet. What makes Hyuga Satoru somewhat dissatisfied is that his arrows are not all metal, and the arrow body is still wood, which will inevitably affect the efficiency of electromagnetic propulsion. But all-metal arrows are probably not available in the entire ninja world. This is not in line with the forging rules of weapons. No one will use all-metal arrows, which are cumbersome and lack toughness, unless they are customized. But for Hyuga Satoru, arrows are not important, all he needs is an electromagnetic cannon that can be shot with a bow. Fingertips pull the bowstring apart. Blue sparks twitched on the metal bowstring, and a faint current could be seen on the tip of the arrow. The white eyes were already open, and the radius of 1 kilometer was in sight. When he sensed that the electromagnetic thrust on the arrow had reached its limit, Hyuga Satoru let go of his fingers. Whoosh! Accompanied by a sharp and piercing explosion. The entire arrow turned into a blue arc of thunder and disappeared instantly. From the white-eyed perspective, Hyuga Satoru clearly saw that the arrow hit a tree trunk about 800 meters away, leaving only a small section of the tail exposed. Hyuga Satoru's face showed joy, and the explosion sound was the sound of breaking the sound barrier, indicating that the speed of this arrow exceeded the speed of sound. The whole process from shooting to hitting takes only about 1 second, the average speed is about 800 meters per second, and the initial speed of a conventional pistol is about 400 meters per second. This arrow far exceeds the speed of fire of the pistol. Although it is still far from the power of the electromagnetic gun in his memory, in the world of ninjas, it is already quite terrifying. You must know that ninjas are generally short-handed, and this attack range with white eyes is enough to turn him into a sniper. The real 800 meters away from the bow and arrow, 1 arrow kill. With my current chakra, I can shoot up to 2 arrows, but because the principle is electromagnetic propulsion, the bow and arrow will not emit chakra fluctuations during flight, plus the speed beyond the speed of sound, there is enough concealment, and the sniper ability is very strong. Hyuga Satoru pondered and analyzed the pros and cons of this arrow. The ultra-long-range sniper ability, combined with the full-picture vision with almost no dead ends, is a proper ninja version of the electromagnetic sniper. The only limitation is that he doesn't have that many arrows. Hyuga Satoru reluctantly pouted, the price of custom metal arrows should not be cheap, as consumables, the cost is higher, and he suddenly thought, if the arrows are made of chakra metal, whether the power is different? To know that the driving efficiency of different metals in a magnetic field is not the same, will chakra metals gain more kinetic energy in a magnetic field? Hyuga Satoru took out the seal scroll and put the big bow in it. He didn't want to carry such a big bow on his back all day. The seal scroll also cost him a lot of money, which made him aching. I have to find a way to make money. Hyuga Satoru smacked his lips. The next day, Hyuga Satoru came to the ninja school in the name of Hatch, and the red beam next to him winked at him. "Woo, why do you look so sluggish again?" "Because I practice every night." "Real?" Looking at Hondo's wretched eyes, Hyuga Satoru was too lazy to explain that he not only had to complete the necessary training last night, but also thought about how to make money for a long time. The development of electromagnetic force is too expensive. With his current economic foundation, he can't get so much capital at all. He finally got a bow, which was given away by others. There is still a long time before he graduates to become a genin, and his electromagnetic power training plan can only be put on hold. "Woo, do you remember? There is a practical test today," Hondo said suddenly. "Actual combat assessment?" Hyuga Satoru raised his head and looked at her. "No, the first semester is almost over, don't you know?" Hyuga Satoru was stunned for a moment, and then he quickly remembered that it seemed that he had been studying at the ninja school for a long time, and these days seemed to be the final assessment days of the first semester. But I can't blame him. Who told him to train at night almost every day, and come to paddle to sleep during the day? He has basically no concept of time. It's over. Looking at Hyuga Satoru's dazed look, Red Beam reluctantly helped her forehead. "I'm afraid you are going to lose the adults now. Many people hope that you, the Hinata clan ninja, will be unlucky. Did you know that a lot of people in the class are laughing at you for being lazy? You sleep every day in class, you're the tail of a crane like Obito." Hondo chattered non-stop. Hyuga Satoru was silent, his eyes flickered, and he didn't know what he was thinking. Soon, the head teacher Fujino Daikichi came to the class. After explaining the relevant matters, he organized the students to go to the playground to start the actual combat assessment. He proudly glanced at the students on the playground, as if he was looking at the green leaks. Under his guidance, many students have made great progress, and they are the future of the village. It's just that when his eyes swept across two figures, his face became weird and helpless. One was Uchiha Obito. This guy is definitely Uchiha's wonderful flower. Fortunately, there is Uchiha Rin in the class to pull back his face, otherwise I'm afraid the students' impression of Uchiha has changed. Another is Hyuga Satoru. Although Obito is a bit stupid, at least he is not lazy, and he is very energetic in class, but this guy Hyuga Satoru is too lazy. Sleeping in get out of class, peeing after class. What's going on? Fujino Daikichi has a headache. There are so many wonderful things in this year's family. A Uchiha. A sundial. Magneto of Hyuga Chapter 5. Chapter 7 Soft Fist. Do not. It's Magnetic Fist. Fujino Daikichi took a deep breath, emptied the distracting thoughts in his mind, and called out the names of the two students. Jun Miko vs. Yuto Kamikawa, let's start. After forming the seal of confrontation, the two started a fierce battle, and the flesh echoed in the playground with the metal collision of the shuriken. Fujino Daikichi nodded slightly. When most of the students did not learn ninjutsu, the battle at this stage mainly relied on taijutsu and shuriken throwing. These two students had a good foundation among the commoners. After a while, Kamikawa Yuto's hand touched Junmiko's throat. Kamikawa Yurin wins. Fujino Daikichi nodded and announced the results of the assessment. Hyuga Satoru watched quietly from the side, while estimating his own strength in his heart. According to his own estimation, he had a much richer means than ordinary genin for the preliminary development of LV-1 electromagnetic force, but he lacked enough actual combat experience. Fujino Daikichi announces the next fight. Iroha Hinata vs. Yamashiro Aoki. Hearing this, there was a commotion around. It's Iroha. I'm afraid Yamashiro Aoki will be miserable. Yeah, after all, they are genuine Hinata ninjas, not comparable to a parallel importer. Yamashiro Aoki, who heard his name, was stunned for a moment, but he could only bite the bullet and go up. He had no hope of defeating Hyuga Iroha. After all, in the class, Iroha was the second in the class after Kakashi Uchiha Rin. Echelon of genius. Sure enough, at the beginning of the battle, Yamashiro Aoki was completely at a disadvantage, and Iroha Hyuga, who opened his eyes, made a tricky and vicious attack, and slapped him on the chest, sending him flying backwards heavily. Is that soft boxing? It's amazing. Yeah. I can't see clearly, and I defeated the opponent in an instant. Struggling to get up from the ground, Yamashiro Aoki felt a tingling pain in his chest, and the flow of chakra became stiff and astringent. Is this the power of soft boxing? He clutched his chest and looked at Iroha in shock while panting. Although he knew he would lose, it was too fast. Of course. Ilubo was obviously quite used, and raised his head slightly. The power of the soft fist is unquestionable, and in Hinata, not everyone can master it. Sensing that there was something in Iroha's words, Hyuga Satoru raised his eyebrows in disdain. At the current stage, Iroha, who has white eyes and soft fists, does have a great advantage against ordinary ninjas. But in the later stage, the disadvantages of soft boxing and white eyes are all at a glance. The upper limit is too low, the riding will has a high, and other bloodstained boundaries also have a lot of ability to counteract the shadow. There is only soft boxing, high cannot be achieved, low cannot be achieved. Is it strong? It's strong, but that's it. The point is that the Hyuga clan stands still, rigidly follows the tradition, never pushes the old to eliminate the new, and develops new abilities. The Hyuga clan cannot find a shadow-level powerhouse. This is also the reason why Hyuga Satoru doesn't like to have too much contact with family ninjas. The path he wants to take is destined to be different from that of Hyuga. Fujino Daikichi called out several names one after another, and Hyuga Satoru saw Kakashi's battle, and he was able to defeat his opponent cleanly and neatly with only physical skills, which was no worse than Iroha. It is indeed the first genius of this session. Hyuga Satoru secretly praised that, under the guidance of Hitaki Sakumo, Kakashi has left more than one level of his classmates. Based on the current Kakashi's chakra volume, my chakra volume is about 1.1 calories. The strong biomagnetic field gives me a lot of advantages in chakra volume. Just as Hyuga Satoru was thinking, a voice broke his thoughts. Hyuga Satoru versus Hinata Iroha. Hyuga Satoru raised his head and saw Iroha looking at him indifferently. Wow! It's actually a battle between two Hinatas. There's a good show to watch. Guess who will win? Of course it's Iroha. That guy Hyuga Satoru was sleeping almost all the time in class, and I've never seen him serious. How could he possibly win against Iroha? Beside her, Red Bean tugged at the corner of Hai Xiangwu's clothes anxiously. Hey, Wu, don't give up on your face. If you can't beat it, you will admit defeat. It's not ashamed. It's miserable if you get hurt. Hyuga Satoru rolled her eyes at her. Do you have so little confidence in me? In the crowd, Uchiha Rin instead stared at Hinata Satoru with great interest. The two came to the playground and signed the seal of opposition. Hyuga Iroha's face was not good, and he said, Hyuga Satoru, I remember that you seem to have never gone to the family's training ground to practice soft boxing. I will tell you, Hyuga. You'll know when you hit it. Hyuga Satoru interrupted him directly. Iroha's face sank, and Jane snorted, blank eyes, open. The meridians bulged out beside the eyelids like earthworms, and the pure white eyes stared at Sun Xiangwu. Aren't you going to open your eyes? The threshold for opening eyes is extremely low, and almost everyone in Hinata can open their eyes, so Iroha does not doubt that Satoru Hyuga has opened eyes. No need. Hinata Satoru shrugged. Insanity. With a palm wrapped in a strong wind, Iroha's face turned bad. Hyuga Satoru just turned sideways slightly, then dodged the opponent's attack. Luck. Iroha frowned. Once again, he slapped the palm of his hand, and his sternness was even worse, but to Iroha's surprise, he missed again. Why are you so fast? Iroha was shocked. No matter how sluggish he was, he discovered that Hyuga Satoru had evaded his attack by relying solely on his physical speed. It's all right. Hinata said. With his current level of electromagnetic force, although there is no way to directly apply electromagnetic push to his body, he can still easily do it by using electric current to stimulate rapid muscle contraction. In daily training, Hyuga Satoru often uses electric current to stimulate the body to contract to a greater extent to achieve better exercise effects, but now it is only applied to actual combat. The contempt in his eyes was gone, replaced by a solemn meaning. Hyuga Iroha said solemnly, "Hyuga Satoru, I admit that you surprised me a lot, but I will be serious next." "Oh." Hyuga Satoru raised his eyebrows. Soft fist, gossip, 32 palms. Putting on a strange stance, Iroha's momentum was like a rainbow, and his hands attacked like running water. Quickly turning sideways to avoid Iroha's attack, Hyuga Satoru had a hint of surprise on his face. Generally, only the genin can master the 32 gossip palms. From this point of view, Iroha, who played tricks in the original book, is also a genius. After all, in the original book, when he met the prince, he was already a Shainin, and Konoha could become a mediocrity of Shainin. After he figured this out, Hyuga Satoru sighed in admiration. Good. This slight approval seemed to explode in Irobo's ears, causing him who was attacking to turn red and clench his teeth slightly. You bastard, how dare you humiliate me? Although anger is anger, he is powerless. Maintaining the 32 palms of gossip is already his limit. After dodging the soft fist again, Hyuga Satoru turned slightly sideways, his right palm flashed slightly, and struck Iroha's chest with lightning speed. The blue electric arc exploded at the junction, and with a dull roar, Iroha's body flew backwards heavily like a kite with a broken string. There was silence. Red Bean stared blankly. Uchiha Rin's eyes flashed, and sure enough, Fujino Daikichi opened his mouth wide enough to swallow an orange. Iroha struggled to support his body, his chest stinging like a lightning strike, and his muscles trembled uncontrollably. He wiped the bloodshot from the corner of his mouth, stared at Hin Xianggu, gritted his teeth. Are you soft fist? Do not. Hinata shrugged. It's Magnetic Storm Fist. Chapter 8 Double Blood Successor. Magnetic Fist. Iroha was stunned. What it is? Degree you degree. Hyuga Satoru shrugged. I don't intend to explain, and I don't understand it. Strictly speaking, magnetic storm punch is an application of high-energy pulses. In a world where electromagnetic technology is still used in electric lights and basic appliances, it is too difficult for them to understand the principle of electromagnetic pulse. The so-called electromagnetic pulse weapon, or EMP, has appeared in many science fiction movies, and the principle is not complicated. Using the strong alternating magnetic field of rapid diffusion, it hits nitrogen in the air, and the oxygen atoms split the ions, and then through the principle of electromagnetic induction, a high-voltage current is instantly generated in the circuit, which burns the circuit board. Is the nemesis of electronic products. But this kind of pulse is generally harmless to the human body. After all, the human body cannot produce electromagnetic induction, so Hyuga Satoru directly skipped this step and directly used the alternating magnetic field to instantly generate a high-voltage current, which exploded from the palm of his hand in the form of a pulse. In addition to the high-voltage electric shock, this attack also packs a powerful impact, which is why Iroha directly flew a few meters away. Hyuga Iroha was stunned for a while, then said, better than Rochuan? Of course. Hyuga Satoru rolled his eyes at him. Iroha subconsciously wanted to refute, the concept of the strongest soft boxing had already taken root in his mind, but when he thought that he was defeated by the opponent with just one punch, his face suddenly darkened. I lost. Win. Hondo opened her mouth blankly, if someone stuffed something strange now, maybe she wouldn't even notice. Hinata Satoru. After a long time, in the silence, Fujino Daikichi announced the results of the competition. Although Uchiha Rin looked surprised, but because she had expected it, it was not very obvious, and her eyes were undisguised on Hyuga Satoru. This guy is stronger than I thought, so I have the qualifications to be my Uchiha Rin opponent. Obito opened his mouth wide and stared blankly at Hyuga Satoru, who was walking back, saying that it would be a shame for everyone to be a family together. You lose Hyuga's face, I lose Uchiha's face. How did you become a genius in a blink of an eye? Only I'm still losing Uchiha's face. It's not fair. When Hyuga Wu came back, Hondo asked in shock, Wu, how did you do it? Hyuga Satoru raised his eyebrows and sighed, where is there a genius? I just spend the time other people sleep on studying. Hongdo curled his lips. I believe you, I've never seen you slept in class before. Fujino Daikichi quickly slowed down and announced the personnel for the next game. After all, he was a ninja who had been teaching for many years, and his experience was much richer than that of ordinary ninjas. I actually lost my sight. That kid is not the tail of a crane, but a genius. But how did he beat Iroha? That move is so fast that it doesn't seem like a soft fist. Fujino Daikichi pondered for a long time, and his eyes were uncertain. After a few students fought, he announced the candidate for the next game. The next game, Uchiha Rin vs Hyuga Go. Magneto of Hyuga Chapter 6. The crowd was in an uproar. My god, it's Uchiha vs Hinata. Uchiha Rinka has always been a genius to compete with Kakashi. Can Hyuga Satoru win? It's hard to say, although I defeated Iroha, Rin Uchiha is much more powerful. Hongdo was going to say something, opened his mouth and swallowed, only saying, come on. Obito waved at Uchiha Rin in the crowd and shouted, come on, Rin. Give me a hard beating. Uchiha Rin ignored him directly. Standing opposite, Uchiha Rin looked at Hyuga Satoru with interest, and suddenly said, is the bow I gave you useful? The surrounding students looked strange, sending bows. What the hell, are these two people? Hyuga Satoru coughed awkwardly. Good. Then don't let me down. As soon as the words fell, Uchiha's eyes narrowed, and he threw several shuriken at the same time with both hands. Excellent throwing skills. Fujino Daikichi couldn't help but admire that this kind of throwing technique that uses collision to change the trajectory of the shuriken, even Uchiha's shinobi, is rarely mastered so proficiently. In the face of the rushing attack, Hyuga Satoru held the kunai to block. An amazing scene appeared. No matter what angle the shuriken was attacking from, Hyuga Satoru could always block or evade easily, just like shuriken is afraid of him. In the crowd, someone spoke sluggishly. What nonsense are you talking about? The shuriken has no life, how could he be afraid of him? Didn't you find it? The man turned his head. It wasn't that he was avoiding shuriken at all, but shuriken was avoiding him. The questioning person took a closer look, and suddenly opened his mouth wide. He saw that when the shuriken was about to hit Hyuga Satoru, it would change its trajectory slightly inconceivably. When facing the overwhelming shuriken attack, he can still dodge freely. Could it be? Uchiha Rin's eyes narrowed slightly, a terrifying guess emerged in her heart, and then she became suspicious again. Impossible, he is from the Hyuga clan, it should be impossible to appear. Knowing that the shuriken's attack was useless, Uchiha Rin stopped throwing, holding kunai in his hand, and the whole person shot at Hyuga Satoru like a sharp arrow. At the same time, Hyuga Satoru held Kowu to block, and the two fell into a physical battle. The more she fought, the deeper the surprise on Uchiha Rin's face. She finally knew the helplessness of Hyuga Iroha before. So fast, you really have been hiding your clumsiness before. As far as physical skills are concerned, she has reached the level of Jin Nin, but in the hands of Hyuga Satoru, she cannot gain the slightest advantage. Hyuga Satoru pouted, isn't that obvious? With the advantages of white eyes and physical speed, he was able to suppress Uchiha Rin steadily. What he lacked was only combat experience, but this gap was constantly shortening during the battle. Humph, if I turned on the shaking wheel, you wouldn't be so relaxed. Stubbornly spit out a sentence, Uchiha Rin's teeth clenched slightly, his figure suddenly retreated, and he gave up the idea of playing against Hinata Satoru. It is much more difficult to open the eyes of the wheel-shaped eye than the white eye. At this stage, she can't get any benefit from the bodybuilding technique with Hyuga Satoru. While pulling the distance, Uchiha Rin quickly formed seals with his hands, and a fiery breath erupted from his mouth. Art Fire escaped Fireball. Ninjutsu. Fujino Teyoshi's pupils shrank. At this stage, students who can use ninjutsu are undoubtedly geniuses, not to mention the sea-level ninjutsu like how Fireball. Not good. The power of the Go Fireball was too great, and Fujino Teiyoshi subconsciously wanted to enter the arena to save Hyuga Satoru, but he was absent-minded for a moment, and the Go Fireball's attack had already arrived. The orange-red fireball engulfed Hyuga Satoru's position, the bursting flames scattered, the temperature of the entire playground was a bit hot, and the air became dry and anxious. Did you hit? There was a hint of hope in Uchiha Rin's eyes. Soon, the flames dissipated, and there was no one in the rising smoke, and an indifferent voice came from behind her. Didn't I tell you, how fireball can't kill people? Behind. When? The pupils shrank suddenly. Uchiha Rin immediately adjusted his body to dodge, but it was too late. The back was like a lightning strike, the blue electric arc exploded on the vest, and the whole person flew forward and backwards in the strong impact. Hyuga Satoru shook his hand and looked at Uchiha Rin, who had fallen to the ground. This battle was not without thrills, and Uchiha Rin's strength put him under a lot of pressure. Fortunately, how Fireball swayed too long before he made his move, so he could use the cover of the flame to go to the back and make a final decision. After all, after taking other people's bows and arrows, as the saying goes, taking short hands and eating short mouths, Hyuga Satoru didn't kill him. This kind of attack should not hurt Uchiha Rin too badly. Are you okay? Seeing that Uchiha Rin had been lying on the playground, motionless, Hyuga Satoru stepped forward. Mutation. Whoosh! I saw Uchiha Rin suddenly raised his hand, and a kunai shot at Hyuga Satoru in an instant. However, just 1 second before the hit, kunai's trajectory suddenly changed, swiping across his face in an arc magnetic dun. Sure enough, you awakened Shuangeji. On the ground, Uchiha Rin's eyes flashed. In an instant, the crowd boiled. Shuangeji. Magnetic dun. What is that? Chapter 9 Genetic Mutations. Double blood follower. Fujino Daikichi opened his mouth in shock. For more than 20 years of coaching, he had only heard about double bloodstains, but had never seen them. There is such a thing as the boundary of blood, and if you have one, you can make people look down on the heroes. If you have two, it will be too scary. But before kunai hit Hyuga Satoru, the scene where the trajectory changed was too clear, so there was only one possibility. Magnetic escape. As a Hinata clan, they already have bloodstains in their eyes, and they have awakened the magnetic escape. There is no doubt that they are ninjas with double bloodstains. Fujino Teyoshi's eyes flickered. The double bloodstain is of great importance, and it must be reported to Hokage immediately. There was a commotion in the crowd. My God, what are the double bloodstains? It should be that there are two bloodstain boundaries. I didn't expect such a ninja to exist. Even Kakashi, who has always been calm, had a touch of shock in his eyes after hearing this word, and looked straight at Hyuga Satoru in the playground. After White Fong's teaching, he knew better than ordinary people what double bloodstains meant. What? Iroha, who was previously injured by Hyuga Satoru, clutched his chest and looked at the figure standing in front of Uchiha Rin with unparalleled shock in his eyes. Impossible, absolutely impossible. In the history of the Hyuga clan for nearly 1,000 years, there has never been a ninja with double bloodstains. White eyes are already one of the strongest pupil skills. How can other bloodstains be awakened? He suddenly thought that the palm that Hai Xiangu defeated him earlier, was it also a move developed by using the magnetic escape? But have never heard of magnetic dun having such an ability? Woo, so powerful. Hondo glanced around, looking at the shocked look of everyone around, and couldn't help but become curious. Fire room. A pile of documents was piled up on the table in a mess, and Sarutobi Hizen was holding the cigarette holder with a serious expression, and was processing the documents. Suddenly, a figure appeared out of thin air next to the Hokage table, with an animal mask on his face and his body wrapped in black clothes. Say. Without looking up, Sarutobi Hizen spit out a word while processing the document. Lord Hokage. Umbu bowed slightly and said, Toyoshi Fujino, the instructor of Class A of the ninja school, reported the news that a student from the Hyuga branch he taught has awakened a magnetic escape and has a double blood. The movement on Sarutobi Hizen's hand suddenly froze. He looked up at the Umbu, and spoke in a deep voice. The news is true. True. Sarutobi Hizen didn't say a word, but Fujino Big Guitar knew that he had been teaching at the ninja school for nearly 20 years, and he was the oldest group of teachers. From his perspective, he should not be able to make mistakes with this kind of information. Then there is only one possibility. Sarutobi Hizen's eyes flashed, that Hyuga family student really awakened the double blood, but he frowned, which seemed unlikely again. Although the ninjas with double bloodstains are quite rare in the ninja world, there are still some. There have always been double-blooded ninjas active in Kirigakushi's history, but it is the first time he has heard of the double blood sites of the Hinata clan. The white eyes of the Hyuga clan are already a good shueji limit. It seems that no clan has awakened other shueji abilities in history, magnetic escape. This is the shueji on Sandian's side. Is it a genetic mutation? Sarutobi Hizen pondered for a moment, then said solemnly, "Give me all the information about that student of Hinata, and also notify the Hinata clan chief. Since they are their Hinata clansmen, they will naturally investigate." Yes. The figure beside the Hokage table disappeared. Spitting out a long mouthful of white mist, Hiruzen Sarutobi leaned on the back of the chair while biting the cigarette holder, a look of exhaustion on his face. Chuangeji, if there is no accident, the future achievements are limitless. It's a pity, it's a separation. Sungay tribe. As soon as today's assessment was over, Hai Xiangu returned home, and the branch guards immediately found him and asked him to go to the family hall. Hyuga Satoru curled his lips, it came really fast. If he exposes some of his abilities, he will inevitably be censored by the family, but this is also in his plan. His cultivation is too expensive. If he doesn't expose some value, how can he be rewarded? As for the consequences, Hyuga Satoru has long thought about it. Because of the separation of the family, I am afraid that Sarutobi Hizen is not easy to interfere, and can only let the sect family deal with it. As for Danzo, what does the poor old man have to do when he has nothing to do? The priority of the bird in the cage is above the eradication of tongue. Doesn't this mean running naked in front of the clan? So this time Sarutobi, you will regret it. Danzo, I am the Hokage, Link, I am afraid that will not appear. In a sense, the bird in the cage really protected the branch, and the only thing that Hyuga Satoru needs to face now is the Zone family. Following the branch guards, Hyuga Satoru came to the ancestral hall, where the Hyuga clan held a meeting, and only the ninjas with high status in the ancestral and branch families were able to enter. It was the first time that Hyuga Satoru had traveled here for so long, and he couldn't help but look around curiously. Compared with other places in Hyuga, the decoration here is more stern, revealing a majestic posture. There are a few blankets placed under the ancestral hall, and a few middle-aged people are sitting cross-legged, and a young man is standing next to it. The branch guard stepped forward and knelt down, and said respectfully to the man in the middle, "Patriarch, he's here." Patriarch? Magneto of Hyuga Chapter 7. Hyuga Satoru looked at the man curiously. He was wearing a white robe. Although his temples had white hair, his eyes were full of energy, staring at him. This person should be the current patriarch of the Hyuga clan. I heard that he seems to be called Hyuga Shueiyue. The young man standing next to him should be Hyuga Hizu, but in the current timeline, he has not yet become the patriarch. Hyuga Satoru secretly analyzed in his heart. Seeing that he was not afraid at all, he looked at himself up and down, and Sun Xiang Shueiyue frowned and spoke first. "Your name is Sun Xiangu, right? I heard that you have awakened the second Shueiji boundary." "Yes." Hyuga Satoru answered affirmatively without any hesitation. The ability of electromagnetic force cannot be concealed as long as it is used. Magnetic escape. Yes. There was a brief silence in the hall. After being silent for a while, Hyuga Shueiyue said solemnly, "In the history of my Hyuga clan for nearly 1,000 years, it seems that no one has awakened other bloodstained boundaries. Why do you awaken?" The rest also turned their attention to Hinata Satoru, waiting for his answer. Hyuga Satoru shook his head and said, "I don't know either." It is impossible for him to answer this question, he can only bite to death and refuse to admit it. "When did you wake up?" "When the news of my father's death came, I felt like the sky was about to collapse, and it felt like something was going to explode in my brain. I lay in bed for a few days, and when I woke up, I felt like I was it's different. At that time, I didn't know that I had awakened the magnetic dungeons. Later, I slowly discovered that I had some other abilities. Hyuga Satoru murmured, and Hyuga Suzuki looked at each other, and their expressions kept changing. Before the arrival of Hyuga Go, all the information about him had been put in front of several people. They naturally knew about Hyuga Gogo's family situation. His mother died in childbirth, and his father died as a branch guard. It was mentioned that Hai Xiangu was ill after his father died, but it was not so specific. So, under the blow of the departure of the parents, the emotional turmoil awakened? Why is he the only one who has awakened a genetic mutation? The expression on Hyuga Satoru's face remained unchanged, but he sneered in his heart. He inherited the memory of his predecessor, and naturally knew that after his father died, he fell ill, which could be used as an excuse. Hyuga does not intermarry with foreigners, his identity and bloodline are beyond doubt, and his parents have long since died, and there is no proof of death. In any case, there is only one explanation for genetic mutation. Coupled with the caged bird on his forehead, it is impossible to threaten the Zong family anyway, so the result of this matter is doomed. Sure enough, after being silent for a long time, Hyuga Shueiyue nodded, apparently agreeing with Hyuga Satoru's statement. Just when Hyuga Satoru breathed a sigh of relief, Hyuga Shueiyue suddenly raised her head and stared straight at him. Since you have awakened new bloodstains long ago, why have you never gone to the family training ground to practice, and you have never told us? Chapter 10 Soft Boxing has limits. So I don't practice soft boxing anymore. The breath in the ancestral hall was surprisingly suppressed, the air seemed to solidify into a solid body, and the eyes of several people from Hyuga Shueiyue were always locked on Hyuga Wu. After being silent for a while, Hyuga Satoru opened his mouth with a hint of bitterness on his face. I also want to go to the family's training ground, but most of the people who go to training are Chunin and Genin. I'm not even a ninja. How can I compete with them? I can only train at my own home every day. Magdun's bloodstain ability was developed by me recently. Before that, I knew very little about the bloodstain boundary. My parents died early, and I was the only one left to live alone, and I didn't have the energy to think so much. After speaking, Hyuga Satoru was silent. In this case, the best way is to be miserable and pretend to be stupid. Anyway, he is a little transparent in the family. Even if the Zong family has his information, there will never be much. After hearing this, Hyuga Shueiyue glanced at the surrounding elders. Indeed, they had already investigated Hyuga Go's situation. If it weren't for the double bloodstains, he would be the type of person with the least sense of existence in the family. No one will notice him. Nodding his head, Hyuga Shueiyue's voice softened a bit. Since you have awakened other bloodstains, no matter what, you will not be allowed to live your previous life again, and from today onwards, your living expenses will be tripled. Thank you, the Patriarch. Sun Xiang Wuxing bowed to thank him. After all, this was one of the purposes of his trip. Hyuga Shueiyue nodded her head, her eyes suddenly became serious, she looked at Sun Xiangwu and said, I heard that after you awaken magnetic Dun, you have contempt for Rochuan, but you must understand that I, the Hyuga clan, stand firm and endure. For 100 years, the world has relied on soft fists and white eyes. Hyuga Satoru snorted coldly in his heart, needless to say that this must have been news from Iroha, so he asked in a deep voice. Lord Patriarch, I would like to ask, Rochuan has made my Hyuga clan stand in the ninja world for hundreds of years, but has Rochuan changed over the years? Sun Xiang Shueiyue thought for a while and said, although soft boxing has evolved since its birth, it has since become fixed and has become the most suitable move for our clan. It can cope with all changes, and it has been like this for 100 years. Since it can deal with all changes, I would like to ask the Patriarch, can Rochuan deal with tailed beasts? This. The sun and the water and the moon are dumb. I heard that the Uchiha clan next door has the ability to compete with tailed beasts, but we, Hyuga and Uchiha, are equally famous, but we don't have this ability. What do you want to say? Sun Xiang Shueiyue was already a little unhappy. Hyuga Wu paused, and said tentatively, soft boxing has a limit. Presumptuous. As soon as he finished speaking, a huge momentum swept out from Hyuga Shueiyue, and the entire sect was filled with a heavy sense of oppression. The branch guard next to Hyuga Wu bowed his body tremblingly, his face showed helpless bitterness, and a drop of cold sweat fell down his forehead. He couldn't imagine why Hyuga Satoru would mention this topic. You must know that the elders of these sects are too sensitive to this topic. Rochuan may have a limit, but does other abilities have no limit? My Hyuga clan has been able to stand up to this day, relying on the foundation of Rochuan and Baiyin. You don't think that you can take another path after awakening the magnetic tunnel, but I tell you, compared with the soft boxing, the magnetic tunnel is worthless. Hyuga Satoru sneered in his heart. He only said half of what he said, but the whole thing was, there is a limit to soft boxing, so I don't practice soft boxing. If Hyuga Shueiwa hears the second half of the sentence, I am afraid that the beard will be off. Not to mention that Rochuan has almost no long-range ability, and the only empty palm is melee combat, which limits the upper limit of Rochuan, and the solidified Rochuan practice has almost cut off the possibility of developing other abilities of Baiyin. Soft Fist may have been the foundation of Hinata's standing in the ninja world, but now, he is the shackle of the Hinata family, like a caged bird. Perhaps the intention is good, but with the development of the times, it has long become a double-edged sword. Sun Xiang Shueiwa waved his hand impatiently. Okay, this is the end of the matter, you can go back. Yes. After Hyuga Satoru and the branch guard left, Hyuga Shueiwa looked at the young man behind him and asked in a deep voice. Hizu, what do you think of that Hinata Satoru? Hyuga Suanzu is a descendant of the sect family that Hyuga Shueiwa is very optimistic about. He has always been with him and cultivated as an heir. Hizu thought for a while and said, since he is the first double-blooded ninja in my history in Hyuga, his future development will certainly not be bad, but his lack of attention to soft boxing may become an obstacle on his path. Sun Xiang Shueiyu coldly snorted. Abandoning the study of soft boxing, and instead studying some crooked ways, the achievements are bound to be limited. After all, it is just a branch. Hearing the last sentence, Hyuga Hizu opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but in the end she fell silent. Outside the ancestral hall, the branch guard wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked at Hyuga Go anxiously. Enlightenment. You are too daring to say soft fist in front of the patriarch. Do you know that if the patriarch wanted to punish you just now, you would have already been tortured by a caged bird? I know. Then you said that? The guard looked at him puzzled. Sun Xianwu's eyes flickered. This was the first time he had contact with the top of the clan. He had to try it anyway, but he was greatly disappointed. If he remembers correctly, in the Hokage anime, there is a plot where the ninja from Yunin village kidnapped Hinata and was killed by Hizu. Rippa Dingbao committed suicide, and that elder seems to be the current patriarch, Sun Xiang Shueiwa. Rizu and Rizai should both be his sons, and he persuaded his son to commit suicide with his own younger brother, but one can imagine how stubborn and vicious his thoughts have become. Thinking of this, Hyuga Satoru scratched his head and smiled at the branch guard. Thank you for your concern, uncle. By the way, I don't know your name yet. Since the time of crossing, he has been living alone. Today, at least this branch guard is the only one who shows kindness to him. Hyuga Hiragi, you can just call me Uncle Hiragi. Okay, Uncle Hiragi. Hyuga Hiragi seemed to remember something. Looking into the distance, a trace of nostalgia appeared on his face. Before your father died, he also performed missions with me. Although we didn't talk much, we could tell that he was a very honest person. I have too many tasks every day, and it's difficult to communicate with you too much besides distributing the pension to you, but if you have problems with your cultivation in the future, you can come to me. Then thank you Uncle Hiragi. Hyuga Satoru smiled and said, Hyuga Hirana is a jonin, even if he doesn't follow the soft boxing system, there should be a place where he can ask for advice. By the way, Uncle Hiragi, I have something I want to ask you to help with. Hinata Satoru thought for a while and said. What's up? Hyuga Satoru scratched his head a little embarrassedly. Isn't this month's living expenses not paid until the end of the month? The money is a little tight recently, can you send it to me in advance? That's it. Hyuga Hiragi thought about it. The Hyuga clan has a corresponding monthly account for the living allowance of the clan, and the patriarch just tripled the subsidy of Hyuga Wu. He originally planned to go to the accounting bureau now, and taking it by the way should not be considered a damage. Rule. Row. Chapter 11 Going to the Grove. On Konoha Street, Hyuga Satoru slapped the stack of banknotes in his hand, frowned, and planned how to spend as much as possible. The original living allowance of 1,500 taels, plus 3 times, became 6,000 taels. It's not too much, and it's not too little. About one sea-level mission can get money. Coupled with the remaining savings from his previous purchase of storage scrolls, it shouldn't be a big problem to customize some metal arrows. The main thing is to find a suitable ninja shop. Too high-end, can't do a few shots, too bad, can't achieve the effect he expects. Alas, it is very difficult to have no money. It would be nice if I could have a rich woman to take care of me. Hyuga Satoru couldn't help but complain, how come he was a lender in his previous life, and he still has to worry about money after crossing. When looking for a ninja shop, Hyuga Satoru specially bypassed the area where the previous store was located. After all, Uchiha Rin said that the street belonged to her home, and he injured her during the assessment. Can you hide or hide? Touch. Unexpectedly, when he first walked into the ninja shop, the clerk immediately joined him enthusiastically. Is it Hyuga Gokuen? I've been waiting for you for a long time. Did you make a mistake? The clerk said enthusiastically, that's right, it's you. Our eldest lady said that as long as you come here, let us treat you well. Miss? Uchiha Rin again. The corners of Hyuga Satoru's mouth twitched slightly, but he didn't expect to go around half the village. Is it still her shop? How many shops does your eldest family have? Hyuga Satoru couldn't help asking. Not much, almost half of the ninja shops in Konoha belong to our family. What about outside Konoha? Well, there are dozens of them, right? Hyuga Satoru was speechless. The clerk's sister said, although our boss is from the Uchiha clan, he is not good at fighting, but he is very proficient in business. With the relationship with the mother-in-law, the business will naturally be great. The eldest lady born in such an environment has a strong desire to compete since she was a child. Okay. Hinata Satoru pouted. It seems that the two characters of Uchiha Rin, Rich Woman and Volume King, can't be taken down. Help me customize an arrow, the material must be metal, preferably. Hyuga Satoru was too lazy to find other stores, so he put forward his requirements one by one. How much? He asked tentatively. After all, he was too shy to speak. 1,000 taels. Magneto of Hyuga Chapter 8. 1,000 taels. Hyuga Satoru looked surprised. Not expensive, but much cheaper than he expected. According to his previous prediction, the price was at least 5 figures. Yes. The clerk said with a smile. The eldest lady explained that I must give you a discount. Is that so? Hyuga Satoru rubbed his chin. Since people are willing to take advantage of them, he can't hurt people's good intentions so much. According to the previous specifications, an additional arrow is made of chakra metal. What? The clerk was stunned, thinking he had heard it wrong. The price of chakra metal is not comparable to that of ordinary metal arrows before. Hyuga Satoru laughed shyly. Of course, he knew that chakra metal was expensive, but he could get chakra metal as a control group to test the efficiency of electromagnetic force on different metals. He still didn't want to give up this opportunity. The clerk looked at his serious face and could only sigh helplessly. Okay. It took a few days to customize the arrows. The next day, when Xiang Wu came to school, he found that the eyes of his classmates had changed. Shock, envy, admiration, jealousy, all kinds of emotions were mixed in their eyes, and they came to Hyuga Satoru together. Hyuga Satoru saw Iroha looking at him with complicated eyes, and when he realized that he was looking at him, he immediately turned his head and was unwilling to meet his gaze. As soon as he sat on the seat, he saw Hongdo next to him curiously put his face close. Hey, Wu, are you really the Shuangeji they say? Of course. Hyuga Satoru rolled her eyes at her. I didn't expect that there would be people who have 2 kinds of blood follower limits at the same time. It's incredible. I thought 1 was the limit. Aren't you stupid for eating sweets every day? Wuyin village used to have 2 bloodstained ninjas. Although they are rare, they are not extinct. Read more books. If Hondo had been mocked by Hyuga Satoru like this before, he would have immediately refuted it loudly, but now that he found out that he was a genius of double blood, he just nodded quietly and said, "Oh." At this moment, Hyuga Satoru noticed that someone was walking towards here, and when he looked up, it was Rin Uchiha. "Is there a problem?" Hyuga Satoru's voice was not too loud. He slaughtered the other party when he bought arrows yesterday, and he felt a little guilty. Uchiha Rin said flatly, "Have a fight after school." Hyuga Satoru. "No way. No way. Isn't it just a chakra metal arrow? As for the big deal is that I just make up the money, it's the kind of installment." Seemingly aware of the inappropriateness of his words, Uchiha Rin thought for a while, and said, "I was unwilling to lose to you last time. I have learned some ninjutsu again, and I will try it after school." Hyuga Satoru breathed a sigh of relief, and couldn't help but slandered, "Brother, you just have to compete. What is a fight? Compared to Kakashi, you are a more suitable opponent." Uchiha paused for a while and added, "If you agree, I will cover the consumption of your ninja tools in the future." "There's something going on." The corners of Hyuga Satoru's mouth twitched slightly. "If you want to develop the ability of electromagnetic force, the consumption of endurance equipment is essential, and the family is unreliable. Since Uchiha Rin is willing to take advantage of it, why not do it?" After determining the time and place, Uchiha Rin returned to his seat. On the side, Red Bean curiously brought her face closer and asked in a low voice, "God, what's your relationship with that Uchiha Rin?" Hyuga Satoru thought for a while and said, "Supplier. Red beans." After school, Uchiha Rin followed Hyuga go to the woods in the back mountain. A stream was flowing through the trees, and the afterglow of the setting sun fell on the dead leaves on the ground along the gaps in the treetops. "Is this where you usually train? Why don't you train at the family's training ground?" Uchiha Rin looked around, and while looking at it, he couldn't help but said, "There are too many stubborn existences in the family, and training there makes them uncomfortable." Hyuga Satoru shrugged. Hearing Hyuga Satoru's words, Uchiha Rin thought of some elders in the Uchiha clan, his eyebrows wrinkled unconsciously, and nodded in agreement. Indeed, there will always be a lot of old stubborn in the big family. Hyuga Satoru smacked his mouth, looked at Uchiha Rin, and couldn't help but said, "To be honest, I didn't expect you to really come here." Uchiha Rin raised his eyebrows and looked at Hyuga Satoru. "Why do you say that?" "Well. Do you know that going to the woods with male classmates, in some places, has another meaning?" "What does it mean?" Rin Uchiha stared straight at him with a hint of doubt in his dark eyes. Hyuga Satoru pursed his lips, and I have to say that Uchiha Rin's appearance condition is very good, that kind of a little cold black long straight little lowly. But at this moment, a voice kept echoing in his mind. "I am not smelting copper, and I am not Doluo." Although many people in the ninja world got married at the age of 12 or 13, Hyuga Satoru still inherited the concept of his previous life, and kept a distance from this little rich woman in front of him. "Forget it, I don't want to discuss these boring topics with you." A hint of impatience appeared on Uchiha Rin's face. "Just start fighting." Chapter 12 Fighting Uchiha Rin Again. As soon as she finished speaking, she swung her palm violently, and with the sound of swiping the air, a few kunai quickly flew towards Hyuga Satoru, aiming at his vital parts. Wooden. After seeing the material of kunai clearly, Hyuga Satoru's pupils shrank slightly. "Knowing that my ability can control metal, so I replaced all the ninja tools with wood." After figuring this out, Hyuga Satoru had a dignified expression on his face, and his body rolled backwards, dodging all kunai's attacks dangerously. "Even if it's made of wood, these kunai have great lethality." "I said Rin, are you trying to kill me?" Hyuga Satoru patted the dust on his body and couldn't help but complain. Uchiha Rin looked at him indifferently and said plainly, "You didn't use your full strength last time against me, right? At least you haven't used the bow and arrow you took last time." Hyuga Satoru pouted, "The bow is a long-range method, how could it be used at such a close distance?" Uchiha Rin touched the ninja bag on his waist, and threw a pile of wooden kunai again. These kunai collided with each other in the air and changed their trajectory, turning into a large airtight net that swept away. Hyuga Satoru was surprised that he actually used Uchiha's throwing technique on Wood Koushang. You must know that the rebound coefficients of metal and wood are fundamentally different. The same throwing technique, wood is much more difficult. I didn't get any benefit from using this trick last time, but now I've replaced the old trick with wood. Hyuga Satoru smiled bitterly, really a scroll king. Holding the metal kunai in his hand, he stepped back and blocked the countless shots of kunai. Fortunately, his reaction speed was greatly improved due to the activation of the current, and it was more than enough to deal with this kind of attack. Out of the corner of the eye, I saw that the place where Uchiha Rin was standing was already empty, and there was a sound of breaking air beside him, and the slender calf swept over, and the toes were facing his chest. Hyuga Satoru ducked sideways, his toes slid across his chest, and his legs whistled. Are you serious? Satoru Hyuga, who sensed the pressure, did not dare to despise it, his white eyes opened instantly, and he entered a state of battle. The crackling sound of the physical impact constantly reverberated in the woods, and the leaves on the shaken tree fell one by one and fell to the ground. Why don't you use soft fist? Uchiha Rin asked curiously. I don't like that thing very much. The soft fist is straightforward and has too many limitations. Hyuga Satoru raised his palm to block Uchiha Rin's swept calf, and his right fist hit the bottom of her thigh, forcing her to retreat. But if I split the boxing technique and attack the weak points, it would be more suitable for my rhythm. Uchiha Rin nodded. If it was a regular soft boxing, the single attack routine might not oppress her that much, but Hyuga Satoru's attack was unstructured, and every blow hit her weak spot. But made her a little bit in a hurry. Seeing that he couldn't get any benefit from him, Uchiha Rin took a step back, opened the distance from Hyuga Satoru, and formed a seal with both hands. After seeing the order of the seals, Hai Xiangwu raised his eyebrows, and said with some contempt, I advise you to use less flamboyant fireballs in the future. This thing can't burn people to death. However, Uchiha Rin didn't seem to hear his words, he took a deep breath, and the orange-red fiery fireball spit out instantly. Hyuga Satoru was shocked, the position where the fireball attacked was not him, but the open space under his feet. The huge fireball hit the ground in an instant, the orange-red flames swept the fallen leaves and flew in all directions, the gray-black smoke mixed with sparks exploded, and suddenly swallowed Hyuga Satoru. The strong stimulus prevented Hyuga Satoru from jumping back immediately to avoid it. Was the initial observation to determine the terrain and formulate an operational plan? Even the dead leaves on the ground were counted. No, not even counting my contempt for the Howard fireball. That is, when he just exited the range of the flame explosion, a cold wind suddenly rushed from behind. Before he could react, his slender arms wrapped around his upper body and controlled his hands together with his body, and a wooden kunai was aimed at his throat. Uchiha Rin held the wooden kunai that was aimed at Hinata Satoru's throat, a hint of arrogance appeared on his pretty face, and his lips spit out. I won. Taking advantage of my contempt for the How fireball, I attacked the ground to blast the flames, forced to dodge in a hurry, and then calculated the position of my foot in advance, and went around to attack from behind. Hyuga Satoru couldn't help but praise Uchiha Rin's fighting thinking and strength. I am afraid that it is no weaker than the General Genin. But it's just this method that you want to beat me. Your idea is a bit too simplistic. The corners of his mouth twitched slightly. Have you forgotten my other bloodstained boundary? Uchiha Rin's pupils shrank slightly, as if remembering something, his perspective shifted slightly, and a chill suddenly rose up her spine. I saw a metal shuriken floating in her throat, spinning slowly. When? Her voice trembled a little, and she no longer had the arrogance she used to be. To be exact, at the moment when your arrogant fireball erupted, I used the magnetic escape to control the 4 shuriken floating around. As long as you appeared, these shuriken will definitely take your life, faster than the speed. If so, I'll hurry. Hyuga Satoru's voice was quite calm, with a hint of joy, as if at this moment he was not being hounded by the upper body, and Kowu was holding his throat. Hearing Hyuga Satoru's words, Uchiha Rin searched, and she found the other 3 slowly spinning shuriken floating around her. Magnetic escape. It's a terrifying ability. I lost. Kunai moved away from Hyuga Satoru's throat, and Uchiha Rin's eyes no longer had the arrogance before, only loss and blows remained. Hey, don't give up on yourself. After all, your shakers haven't awakened yet. If you have shakers, the results are really hard to say. Worried that the other party would give up on himself, Hyuga Satoru couldn't help saying. You don't have to comfort me, I'm not that vulnerable yet. Glancing at Hyuga Satoru coldly, the previous color reappeared in Rin Uchiha's eyes. Magneto of Hyuga Chapter 9. I will challenge you again in the future. I will remember the bet, and your ninja tools will consume my bag in the future. Hearing the last sentence, Hyuga Satoru's eyes lit up, coming, and finally waiting. But I have a doubt. Uchiha Rin thought for a while, and said, why is your magnet so powerful? I remember that ordinary magnets can't control shuriken and kunai so freely, otherwise Sandine the village will not be the weakest of the 5 villages. Chapter 13 Electromagnetic Force LV2 Life Magnetic Field. Hyuga Satoru thought for a while, and said, I don't know, each magnetic tunnel seems to have different abilities. Maybe my magnetic tunnel is more sensitive to metals like shuriken. Really? Uchiha Rin frowned. She has read the family's collection of books, and she also has a certain understanding of magnetic dun. The strongest ninja in the current world is the 3 generations of Kazekage from Sandine village. But this title is obviously watery. His magnetic escape ability is to control sand and iron, and it only interferes a little with metal enduro tools, and it is even more impossible to control it as freely as Hyuga Satoru. Rin Uchiha can't imagine how terrifying the ability to control metal ninjas would be if he grew up. What ninja can't carry a metal shuriken, kunai? If I didn't replace all my ninja tools with wooden ones today, I might lose a face-to-face. This is the real king of war, the battlefield killer. Looking at Uchiha Rin's absent-minded appearance, Hyuga Satoru naturally guessed what she was thinking, but if she was told that the ability he showed was just the tip of the iceberg, what kind of shock would she be like? If the ability of the magnetic escape is a leaf, then the electromagnetic force is an ancient tree that covers the sky. Sandine village Fengying's magnetic escape, and the ability he has developed now, are just a few insignificant leaves on that ancient tree. As the 4 fundamental forces of the universe, or the electromagnetic force, one of the 3 fundamental forces, it is simply unimaginable how terrifying it is to fully master it. After the battle with Uchiha Rin, his experience points have reached more than 1,800, and there are only more than 100 left to upgrade experience from 2,000 points. When you rush to LV2, you should be able to obtain a new electromagnetic force system ability. What will it be? Hyuga Satoru thought curiously in his heart. There is a holiday in the next few days, so I don't have to go to the ninja school, I can try to break through. Back at home, Hyuga Satoru hoarded a lot of supplies, locked himself in the room, and started a training plan to impact the electromagnetic force level. Almost at the same time, a small earthquake suddenly occurred within the Hyuga family, which has been passed down for nearly 1,000 years. A clansman awakened the second bloodstain for the first time, magnetic escape. This was the first time in an ancient and lawful family like Hinata. At first, not many clan members believed this kind of remarks, but later, more and more people spread the rumors, so they had to pay attention to it. Hey, have you heard that there is a clan who awakened the second bloodstain and defeated the genius of the Uchiha family? You just heard, didn't you beat Uchiha with one move? Didn't Uchiha immediately kneel down and beg for mercy after hearing the double bloodstain? So someone found Iroha, but no matter how they asked, the other party kept silent, but judging from his performance, he acquiesced. Since then, the sun has been boiling. Can we also awaken the second bloodstain? In addition to the white eyes, is there any other bloodstain ability in the Hyuga bloodline? Such remarks keep appearing in the Hyuga clan. In the end, it was the patriarch who came forward and claimed that the situation of Hai Xiangu was special and not universal, and the situation was calmed down. Many clansmen were curious to learn about the double bloodstained clansman, but were surprised to find that the clansman seemed to have suddenly jumped out, and they had never heard of him before. The training ground, in the corner of the house, from time to time, you can see some branch families get together, whispering and discussing the branch genius who they had never seen before and awakened the second bloodstain, until the passing Zong family coughed in dissatisfaction, and hurriedly calmed down. It's just that those branch families may never have imagined that the righteous master in their mouths is shrinking himself in the room at this moment, going through an extremely harsh practice. The cramped space was filled with the smell of fermented sweat, and all kinds of metal props were placed in a disorderly manner. Sun Xiangwu was sweating profusely, panting heavily, and a look of joy appeared in his eyes. Success! Just now, he suddenly heard a slight shattering sound coming from his body, and then he sank his consciousness into his mind, and sure enough, a line of small words appeared below Xingxuan. Electromagnetic force LV2 distance to next upgrade experience value 0/6000. At the same time as the level was raised, Hyuga Satoru was surprised to find that his body seemed to be undergoing a transformation. He had experienced this feeling before, and it was the first time he awakened electromagnetic force. But now, it is much stronger than then. The impurities in the body are decomposed by electromagnetic force, converted into extremely pure energy, and fed back to the body itself. Although after several days of hard training, his body was full of filth, but Hyuga Satoru was full of energy at this time, as if he had been beaten with chicken blood, and his condition was extremely good. Close your eyes and carefully feel the changes in your body, and soon Hyuga Satoru found out. The biomagnetic field is much stronger than before. Hyuga Satoru opened his eyes in surprise. The discovery was not a big one. Before the importance of the biomagnetic field, he had already discovered that the complex life activities of the human body will create their own unique biomagnetic field. If the biomagnetic field is increased, it will feed back the life activities of the body. Hyuga Satoru had guessed before that if the biological magnetic field is strong enough, it will reverse the evolution of the body and enter a higher level of life. He seems to be taking a small step towards that route now. Is this the final direction in which the electromagnetic force develops? A higher level of life. After pondering for a while, Hyuga Satoru took a deep breath, suppressed the restlessness in his heart, and began to carefully feel his biological magnetic field. Although I can freely control the magnetic field of metals, the biological magnetic field of living objects cannot be moved at all. Obviously, this corresponds to the higher authority of electromagnetic force. It is not something I can touch now, but... Hyuga Satoru frowned slightly. The biomagnetic field in his body is like a small flame that is constantly burning. The warmth radiating nourishes his body, and this flame will adjust according to his state, so that his body is always in the best state, just like yes. Hyuga Satoru thought for a while and said to himself. I was put on a permanent recovery buff by the nanny. This can no longer be summed up by a simple biomagnetic field. Well, let's call him Life Magnetic Field. Hyuga Satoru thought for a while and put a name on this ability. The magnetic field of life is obviously the new ability of his electromagnetic force LV2 awakening. In addition, he has tested it again, and has greatly improved the strength and accuracy of electromagnetic force manipulation, and the previously developed ability will also be not small. Enhancement. The electromagnetic force of LV1 should correspond to the basic electromagnetic control, and the electromagnetic force of LV2 corresponds to the life magnetic field. So what is the ability corresponding to the electromagnetic force of LV3, LV4, or even more advanced electromagnetic force? Hyuga Satoru couldn't help but be curious and full of expectations for the future. The electromagnetic path is like a pyramid composed of steps, constantly tempting him to explore and reach the final peak. Chapter 14. Kasahi. Hyuga pushed the door open and took a deep breath. Because of the magnetic field of life, even though I didn't sleep for a long time yesterday, my mental state was still very good. Taking advantage of the last day of the holiday, Hyuga Satoru planned to retrieve the metal arrows he had custom-made before to test the power. Yesterday's breakthrough has increased his control over the electromagnetic force. Coupled with the blessing of all metal arrows, Hyuga Satoru is looking forward to the power of the magnetic storm he conceived. At the custom-made ninja shop, Hyuga Satoru couldn't help but feel a little nervous. After all, the price of these custom-made arrows was not cheap, and he also temporarily made a chakra metal arrow. Fortunately, the clerk did not embarrass him. As soon as she saw him, she handed him the customized arrow, which made him a little emotional. Uchiha Rin is indeed a person who keeps his promise. As the test site, Hyuga Satoru still chose the forest he frequented before. The sudden appearance of Schwangeji in the family has caused a lot of trouble, and Hyuga Satoru didn't want to attract too much attention. Hyuga Satoru opened the wooden box. I saw a large number of metal arrows lying quietly in it. The arrows were polished very smooth, reflecting a faint metallic luster. In addition to the metallic luster, one of them also exuded a little bit of star-like blue. Is this the chakra metal arrow? Hyuga Satoru picked up 2 arrows and compared them. The chakra metal arrows are slightly lighter, with the same volume and lighter weight. According to Newton's second law, acceleration and weight are inversely proportional. Under the same external force, a greater acceleration. Hyuga Satoru took out a scroll from his arms, the white fog dissipated, and a large bow appeared in his hand. The first test is the conventional metal arrows. When the bow and arrow are drawn, the blue current flows in the arm, which stimulates the muscles to contract to a greater extent. The bowstring is pulled to the full moon, creating a pushing magnetic field, changing the magnetic field of the metal arrow, and obtaining greater acceleration. If it was in the previous electromagnetic force LV1, this set would definitely not be so easy for Hyuga Satoru to do, but with the blessing of the LV2 electromagnetic force, it seems to be smooth. The white eyes have been opened, and the radius of kilometers is in the field of vision. When the electromagnetic push reached its limit, Hyuga Satoru released his finger, and a sharp explosion sounded instantly, and the bow and arrow turned into a blue arc and disappeared. Boom! From the white-eyed point of view, Hyuga Satoru clearly saw that the arrow directly pierced through the tree hundreds of meters away, and the 2 people hugged the tree and nailed it to the tree pole behind. TSK, with this kind of power, even if it's too late for Jounin to dodge, it will be instantly killed. Hyuga Satoru sighed with emotion. The fly in the ointment is that because the speed exceeds the speed of sound, a sonic boom must occur when shooting. But also because the speed exceeds the speed of sound, the bow and arrow will arrive before the enemy hears the sonic boom, which will not have much impact on the enemy, but the sonic boom will expose his sniping point. Therefore, it is very important to choose the right sniper position. With a slight sigh, Hyuga Satoru picked up the chakra metal arrow. The power of conventional arrows is so great. Will the chakra metal arrow be stronger? This kind of pure metal arrows can be recycled, and Hyuga Satoru doesn't feel too distressed. When setting up a bow and arrow, when building a pushing magnetic field, Hyuga Satoru was pleasantly surprised to find that the chakra metal arrow was more sensitive to the magnetic field, which means that the driving force that can be obtained is stronger. Following the same method, Hyuga Satoru released his fingers. Whoosh! I saw a thunder arc swept across in an instant. Hyuga Satoru instantly opened his mouth wide. The chakra metal arrow almost exceeded the limit of his white-eyed perspective, like a thunder, and fell deeply into a big tree with 3 people hugging each other. Within 1,000 meters, this arrow is a great threat to any ninja. He couldn't help but sigh. Rubbing his chin, he roughly estimated that it should be due to the particularity of chakra metal. The initial speed of this arrow is close to 3 times the speed of sound. The initial speed of the conventional anti-machine sniper rifle bullet is about 850 meters per second, which is still a distance from 3 times the speed of sound, and the initial kinetic energy is far worse than this arrow. In terms of attack range, it is about 1,200 meters, which is similar to the effective range of conventional anti-machine sniper rifles. No matter how far it is, the accuracy and power will decrease. In terms of his current limit, he can achieve this step, and when the ability of electromagnetic force is stronger in the future, it will not take off directly. Maybe you can control the arrow to turn in flight. Have you seen a sniper rifle that can track? Ninjas are small, crispy skins, high in attack and low in defense, and caught off guard against ultra-long-range sniping, except for the cow of the 3rd-generation Reikage. I am afraid that even shadow-level powerhouses must temporarily avoid the edge. Hyuga Satoru let out a breath of turbid air and carefully recovered the arrow. This ability should not be used in the short term, and it was considered a trump card. On the way back, Hyuga Satoru's mood was much more relaxed. The shadow of the previous 3 battles had been oppressing him, making him not dare to relax. Now that he has developed a powerful Bao-type ninjutsu, his life-saving ability has been greatly increased, and his tense mind has eased a little. Just when he was about to get home, he suddenly stopped, frowning slightly. From a distance, I saw a figure standing at the originally empty doorway, as if it had been waiting there for a long time. Looking at the face that was 8 or 9 points similar to that of Zongtang, Hyuga Satoru had a faint guess in his heart. The man Asahi Xiangwu smiled kindly. Introduce myself, my name is Hyuga Rippa, can I have a chat with you? Hyuga's daily difference, as expected. Hyuga Satoru's heart froze. He walked past the Hinata Nisashi, opened the door, and looked back at the Hinata Nisari. Lord Rizai, come in and talk. Rizari Hyuga followed Hyuga Satoru into the room, looked around curiously, and saw that the corner of the room was full of worn-out metal products, and there was no other furniture except simple living utensils. I usually don't have time to tidy up the room because of my practice, and I hope you will forgive me for the day-to-day difference. Magneto of Hyuga Chapter 10. Hinata Satoru dragged out a chair and motioned for Hinata to sit down. Looking at the maturity of Hyuga Satoru that did not match his age, Hyuga Rizari suddenly felt a sad feeling, sighed and said, Yuntaki has been gone for so many years, you must have suffered a lot. Hyuga Satoru raised his brows slightly. Hyuga Yuntaki was the father of the original body, so it seemed that Hyuga Risaba knew him, but as a traveler, Hyuga Satoru had a rather vague memory of him. Seeing that Hyuga Satoru didn't speak, Hyuga Risai thought he was immersed in the pain of his father's death, so he said. I heard from the tribe that you awakened the second bloodstain because of your father's death. Too sad. The corner of Hyuga Wu's mouth twitched slightly. This was made up by him in the ancestral hall in order to deceive him. Unexpectedly, it had already spread, and even Sun Xiang was aware of it. Why haven't I seen you training with your clan? Asked Hayaka. I have awakened the second bloodstain. It is considered a different kind of existence in the family. It is better to cultivate alone. Hyuga Satoru said that this is indeed his inner thought. The route he takes is different from that of all the clansmen, so it is better to have less contact. Unexpectedly, just after he finished speaking, he heard a sigh from Hinata Nisashi, and said with a trace of unwillingness. Do you think that the second bloodstain was awakened? Is it an outlier? No, I originally thought that the family was like a pool of stagnant water, and it would never change until I heard about you. You who awakened the second bloodstain are definitely not an outlier, but a variable, proving that the rotten ancient tree of the Hyuga clan still has new vitality. Hearing Rizai's words that clearly had a deeper meaning, Hin Xiangwu's expression became a little dignified, and said. Sir Rizari, what are you doing here today? Hyuga Rizari's emotions gradually subsided, shook his head, and his voice was much softer. No, I just wanted to come and see you, to see the new green leaves growing in this decaying old tree. Maybe it's a bit abrupt. He sighed and got up from his chair. I'll say goodbye first. If you have any cultivation needs in the future, you can come to me. Looking at the back of Hyuga Risashi leaving, Hyuga Satoru's eyes changed complicatedly. In the original work, Hyuga Rizari should have hated the identity of his family's separation very much. He was even tortured by his brother with a caged bird because he revealed to Hinata that he intended to kill. In the end, he committed suicide instead of Hizu. No matter which point, you can see his hatred for the rotten system of Hinata. Hyuga Satoru has a feeling that he will come to find him. Even for the variables in his mouth, the new green leaves in the decaying old wood. Chapter 15. Wu, think about it again. Are you really not going to tell me the whitening secrets? Hyuga Satoru reluctantly covered his face, and beside him, Hongdo grabbed his arm and kept coquettishly asking him to teach him the secrets of whitening. I've said it many times, I really don't have any whitening secrets. He was speechless and could only repeat the words that had been repeated many times. Is whitening so tempting for girls? Since he came here this morning, Hongdo has been entangled with him for 2 classes. No matter how he explains it, Hongdo doesn't believe it. How could you have no whitening secrets? You haven't seen each other for a few days on vacation. The whole person has become whiter a lot, just like changing someone else. The jealousy in Hongdo's tone, with a hint of gnashing of teeth, wanted to swallow Hyuga Satoru alive. Well. Women's boring jealousy. Hyuga Satoru shook his head helplessly. Hyuga Satoru slandered in his heart. After the electromagnetic force upgraded and transformed his body, it was true that he became handsome. Why did it have an effect of whitening the skin? Since I came here in the morning, I have heard someone whispering that he is a little white-faced more than once, because he and Uchiha Rin have been very close recently, and even the reputation of the other party seems to have changed. Hyuga Satoru glanced at Red Bean and ruthlessly shattered her fantasy. I said, don't think about whitening. Hongdo looked at him eagerly and said, why? Are you awakening a magnetic escape first? Red Beans? What does this magnetic escape have to do with it? At this moment, Fujino Daikichi walked in from the outside with a textbook, and Enko had to give up the idea of asking in detail. Although the theoretical knowledge of the three-body technique taught in this class does not have much effect on Hyuga Satoru, it has to be said that for most other civilian students, this is the only way for them to acquire knowledge. Because of the magnetic field of life, even though he stayed up late last night to cultivate immortals, Hyuga Satoru didn't feel too tired and was still full of energy. When he was idle and bored, he carefully flipped through the textbook. After seeing this scene by Fujino Daikichi, tears almost flowed out. Sure enough, my class is still attractive. You finally don't sleep in class. Fujino Daikichi couldn't remember how long he hadn't seen Hyuga Satoru who didn't sleep in class, and he was immediately moved. After school, the three of Hyuga Go and Uchiha Rin and Red Bean met to go to Yao Ramen. During this time, Uchiha Rin and Hyuga Go had a lot of exchanges, and they also became familiar with Red Bean along the way. During this period, the hand-beating uncle of Yao Ramen was still very young, and his daughter Iris was not a few years older than Hin Xianguo. She was wearing all white clothes and was busy back and forth in the kitchen. Uchiha Rin casually found a place to sit down, raised his eyebrows, and said plainly, "My treat." As soon as she finished speaking, Hongdo hesitated and said, "Well, Rin-sang, we'd better pay for ourselves. After all, they haven't been with each other for a long time." Red Bean is a little hesitant to invite others to treat them for the first time. Hongdo, since she thinks of a treat, let her invite her. Rin is not bad for this amount of money. Hyuga Satoru immediately came out to smooth things out. He knew Uchiha Rin too well, not bad money, but good face. Then thank you Rin. For the sake of this, Enko will naturally not continue to insist, and smiled slightly towards Uchiha Rin. Unexpectedly, Rin, who is usually quite cold in class, is also a warm person, she thought in her heart. Uchiha Rin nodded in response. Soon, the hand-beating uncle brought a few bowls of ramen, put it on the table, and smiled at a few people. "Please enjoy." "Thanks." Uchiha Rin ordered a bowl of ramen in clear soup. She doesn't like food that is too heavy, and ramen, if it wasn't for Hyuga Satoru, she wouldn't eat it normally. Sip the noodles into your mouth, chew them carefully, and then take a sip of the clear soup, and the delicious taste flows in your mouth. Uchiha Rin closed his eyes slightly, and admired inwardly, much better than I imagined. She looked at the position of the Red Bean. The Red Bean ordered a bowl of tonkatsu ramen, which looked quite tempting. She was using chopsticks to pick up the small noodles, slowly feeding them into her mouth, chewing them, and tasting them. In addition to the food, it is also quite gentle. Uchiha Rin nodded secretly, and his affection for Itsuki increased a bit. She looked at the position of Hyuga Wu again, her eyelids twitched a few times, and she saw that Hyuga Wu was holding the noodle bowl and gnawing wildly. He didn't pick up the noodles with chopsticks, but wrapped the noodles into a big ball with chopsticks. He swallowed it in one mouthful, and beside him, a high stack of bowls was already piled up. 1, 2, 5, 7. The number continues to increase. "Boss, another bowl." Sucking the noodles from the corner of his mouth into his mouth, Hyuga Satoru raised his hand and shouted vaguely. The Red Beans also stopped and stared at this scene dully. The bowls that were piled high were like a monument, recording the fierceness of the battle situation. "Wu, you all the Hinata clan can eat like this?" Red Bean stammered and asked. "Almost." Hyuga Satoru thought for a while and swallowed the noodles in his mouth. Because the Hyuga clansmen have to provide blood stains from their eyes, they eat a lot more than others. But this is too exaggerated. Hongdo didn't know how to speak. There was another reason Hai Xiangwu didn't mention. The exuberant life magnetic field in his body was stimulating his vigorous life activities all the time, which would also increase his energy consumption and food intake. The combination of the two reasons caused him to just eat a bowl of ramen, and it seemed that a hungry beast had awakened in his body, roaring frantically. Uchiha Rin had a headache. She roughly estimated the money she had with her. Maybe she would be embarrassed this time. Although she is not short of money, it does not mean that she will carry a lot of money with her, just enough, but who would have thought that Hyuga Satoru can eat so much? You bastard! Looking at Hyuga Satoru who was still eating the sea, Uchiha Rin gnashed his teeth slightly. Welcome next time. Hand Beat and Calamus bowed deeply towards the three who went out, with cheerful smiles on their faces. What a bold guest, just the consumption of the three of them can already be worth the consumption of today's whole day, especially that boy, he really loves ramen. It's an honor to have such a guest, Uncle Shouda thought happily. Uchiha Rin's face was quite ugly, he gritted his teeth slightly, and stared at Hyuga Satoru who was walking in the front. So close. She said secretly in her heart. Fortunately, I brought a little more money with me when I went out today, otherwise I would be embarrassed today. After thinking about it for a while, Uchiha Rin was still indignant in his heart. He stepped forward and was ready to scold Hyuga Satoru. She just stretched out her hand to grab Hyuga Satoru's arm, but the other party suddenly grabbed her wrist with a backhand and turned back with a serious face. Looking at her. Wait. Uchiha Rin had never seen Hyuga Satoru with such a serious expression, and was stunned. She followed Hyuga Satoru's gaze. It was a small shop, and several customers were whispering, with expressions of disgust on their faces. Hey, you heard it, White Fang's abandonment of the mission has caused huge losses to the village. Yes, I heard it's for a companion. Oh. He gave up such an important task for a companion. Before the loss, we all thought he was the hero of the village. That is. White Fang. Uchiha Rin was stunned. Isn't that Kakashi's father? Chapter 16. Leave Wu's bloodline behind. The white teeth in their mouths are Kakashi's father, right? Hongdo also saw this scene, and a trace of worry flashed in his eyes. Yes. Hyuga Satoru frowned slightly. Look around again. Hongdo looked around and found not only the grocery store, but also other places. The villagers were in groups of 3 and 2, whispering, as if they were spurning something. In this way, the impact of this incident was much greater than she had imagined, and the anxiety in her eyes deepened. What mission did Lord White Fang give up? How many people would condemn him? At this time, Uchiha Rin didn't have any more trouble with Hyuga Satoru, and sighed slightly. White Fang is a powerful man. I have always admired him, but I didn't expect such a thing to happen. Have you found a problem? Hyuga Satoru suddenly said. What's the problem? Uchiha Rin looked at him curiously. According to their description, White Fang suffered a huge loss in the village because he gave up his mission, but about that loss, all the descriptions are words like huge, big impact, but what is the specific loss, there is no anyone can tell in detail. You mean, is there something strange about this? Uchiha frowned slightly and lowered his head in thought. Although she is a fighting maniac, it does not mean that she has no brains. If you think about this matter carefully, you will immediately find some of the problems. In addition to the vague description of the loss. She passed by the day before yesterday, and there was not so much scolding at that time, which means that the fermentation of this matter has only occurred in the past 2 days. Such a major event has evolved to the point where countless villagers scolded it within 2 days. She has not noticed it yet. This kind of speed is obviously abnormal. Red Bean didn't think about it that much, but the worry in her eyebrows was getting deeper and deeper. Although she usually didn't have much interaction with Kakashi, after all, she didn't want to see the other's father become like this after being a classmate.